Welcome everyone to the Final Four of the 2020 Bona Cup. We've had 12 teams facing off and now just 4 remain to be crowned the ultimate Bonaventure champion. Bona commenter here with SB Unfurled, getting you ready for both games tonight, especially the first one of the night, which is between the 2000 and 2018 teams. What are you expecting tonight, Unfurled?
These teams have been pretty impressive. 2018 controlled most of the game against 2002 with players that we'll see again, like J.R. Bremer and Patricio Prado on 2000. Other than a late comeback, they kind of controlled that game. And 2000 has also been very impressive. They knocked off 1983 and then knocked off 1968, the only team to ever go undefeated in Bona history with Bob Lanier. So, I mean, they have good players all over the floor. 2 huge inside presence in Caswell Cyrus and Peter Van Passen. And then, of course, Tim Wynn, David Capers, Bremer, Prado, Messiah. They have guys all over the floor if you're not too familiar with them like you are 2018. So this will be a good test for 2018 as well.
Yeah, 2000's the only team to win 2 games in the Bona Cup as they made it out of the first round, like you mentioned. A lot more three-point shooting is expected out of both teams, as we do have the three-point line in effect for this game. Our second game won't have a three-point line between 1970, the Final Four team, and the Sweet 16 squad from 1961. But we are going to see who will be the better shooting team tonight, as Jalen Adams there spinning the ball is getting ready to take on Tim Wynn, who's one of the, if not the best defensive guard in Bona's history.
Yeah, and Matt Mobley had a little bit of a slow start last game. This team was still able to get it done thanks in large part to Stockard and Ladarian Griffin, who we will have on for the second half. Stockard was the player of the game last game for 2018. Griffin had 18 points, 8 rebounds. So if they can also get Mobley going from 3, then this will be the team that we saw a few years ago, and we know how dangerous they can be from deep.
That's right, and you mentioned it. Ladarian Griffin will be joining us in the second half of this game, and he'll be playing, of course, but he'll be commentating and playing at the same time.
Got a mic'd up.
And we'll also have, we got a mic'd up for y'all. And also we have Mike, speaking of Mike Vaccaro from the New York Post, a very famous Bona alum writer. He is going to be joining us for the 70-61 game, and he will be able to give us a lot of perspective. And if you're not very familiar with the older teams, if you're one of the younger fans, you're going to learn a lot from him.
Yeah, and I reached out to him to come on, and he said, I absolutely want to do 1970 versus 1961. He was salivating at the thought of Tom Stith and Bob Lanier on the court playing against each other. Those were his top 2 picks for his all-time team selection, as they were for all the other panelists as well. But we're about to get started here. That'll come later. We'll give you the first half, and then for the second half, we'll be joined by Ladarian Griffin. As we see, the new Riley Center has been taken over. The Shanghai Bears have bought ad space behind the baskets. That ad money was used to renovate Butler Gym, of course, and get all these old players back to Olean and St. Bonaventure. Key matchup there, Tim Wynn and Jalen Adams. One of the best defensive guards of all time, like you said, against one of the best offensive guards of all time. So that really is a key matchup at the point guard position.
Another all-time Bona guard right there. Jim Barron is the coach of the 2000 team, as we get ready to tip off here in the Riley Center between the 2000 and 2018 team. Who will go to the final of the Bona Cup? We are underway with 2000 winning the opening tip.
Tim Wynn right off the bat will get it, and you see all of the good players that are out there. Caswell Cyrus, number 21 in brown, has been first team all Bona Cup so far this tournament. He's been phenomenal.
Shot doesn't go there for Wynn, but a rebound eventually by Caswell Cyrus, who's had, if it's not Lanier, he's had the best 2 games in the tournament, and he continues right where he left off for Game 3.
And he did one of those against Lanier in that 1968 team, just crucial down low. to kind of fend
Matt
up.
Mobley for 3, trying to get going early. No good for him. Like you mentioned, a little bit of a quieter game for him in the 2018 team's win.
Yeah, it was at the 2 spot, Matt Mobley versus J.R. Bremer, 2 really all-time great shooting guards for St. Bonaventure. Both of them guarding each other. I guess kudos to their defense because they kind of shut each other down the first half. They both got going a little bit. As you see him pass it into Taki with the easy layup, and 2018 is on the board.
2 apiece here. We're just getting started. The winner will play either 1970's Final Four team or 1961's Sweet 16 team.
Yeah, so many great teams and great players. We created almost 150 players for this. As Matt Mobley gets on the board, an early 3 for him. Let's see if that gets him going in this one. So many great teams, down to just 4 teams. I like how the bracket ended up shaping up. We have teams across 4 different decades, 4 different eras, 4 different great coaches, and a lot of really good players.
Yeah, I guess we've avoided having any repeat players playing each other, so we won't see 2 Bob Laniers playing or something.
Yeah, and that kind of went into the design of the bracket as Prado gets up the floor, beats Adams down, and gets a 2 to pull them within 1. We really tiered these teams off, top 4, middle 4, bottom 4. So, I mean, even though 1961 could be in the conversation for best team or second best team of all time, they were in that 4 spot, and we'll see them later. And a few things went into that. We wanted good matchups for you guys. We wanted interesting matchups. We didn't want any repeat players because Adams is in this twice, Lanier is in this twice, Bremer is in this twice. So really forming the bracket in an interesting way, and I think it turned out pretty well.
5-4 here early on. 17-19 left to go in the first half as Peter Van Passen backing down Jalen Adams. A big mismatch there gives 2000 the early lead.
Adams put on a lot of muscle in his 3 or 4 years working with Fisk, but not enough to be able to fend off Van Passen down low. But he does answer quickly on the other end.
Fends off Caswell Cyrus on that play. 7-6 early on here in the Riley Center. Bob Lanier court. Bob Lanier will be playing on his own court for the first time since it's been named after him later on as Tim Wynn fires the 3. No good. Taki with the board.
Yeah, we saw a lot of Butler Gym in the Armory. We had 4 games in each of those gyms, home courts that the Bonnies have had. As Mobley hits a step-back 3, almost falling out of bounds. That was beautiful. And he already has 2 threes. If that's any indication of the game he's going to have, 2000 better watch out. But now we're finally back in the Riley Center, and I like the look of this court. It's the current court that we have, and it feels like it's Bonnie's basketball for sure.
Yes, and we'll have to change the paint in the intermission because 1970 and 1961 did not have all these cool logos on the court. It was pretty bare bones.
Although Bob Lanier would probably like his name on the court, I'm sure.
A timeout there for Jim Barron in 2000.
Yeah, hot start for 2018. This 2000 team looked so good defensively. It seemed like 1968, that Ironman 5 with all those great players, they were stuck around 6 or 8 points for most of the first quarter. And 2018, thanks to Matt Mobley, already off to a pretty hot start here.
Yeah, we got the T-shirt cannon from Butler and from the Armory to the Riley Center. Shooting out some Community Bank 3-point tees, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Those things aren't cheap. Thanks to the Shanghai Bears for all that ad money.
Courtney Stockard fires no good. I do not know how to say Community Bank 3-point tee in Chinese, so we won't try. Shot there misses.
No.
Adams with the board. He'll fire the 3 in transition, and it goes. Oh, sorry, a long 2 there. He was on the line.
Tough pull-up, long 2 there with Cyrus behind him.
14-6 early on. Caswell Cyrus, again, has had a very impressive tournament, and he puts it in.
we'll have Ladarian Griffin coming in soon. Like we said, he'll be on in the second half to talk about this season, all the good games, the good memories, and just some of the best plays and games that we saw during this historic year.
Exactly. Griffin will be subbing in soon. He's actually right there, sixth man on the bench, right next to sedated Mark Schmidt.
Tim Wynn will come
Tim
out.
Wynn will get a rest for younger J.R. Bremer. Bremer without his distinct cornrows in 2000. He didn't grow those until 02.
Young Bremer, you could argue, has been better than the senior Bremer in this tournament. He really catapulted them to that win over 83 early on.
Absolutely, as it's 14-11 early in this one. 14:30 left to go in the first half. Adams passes up the three. Drives into the lane, and the running layup falls. A little teardrop there, actually.
Hot start for Adams, too. This backcourt of Adams and Mobley looking really good so far.
Jay hasn't missed a shot, 4 of 4 already. As Patricio Prado gets into the lane, over to Cyrus, and he is denied by Amadi Ekpezi. And Patricio Prado will block Jalen Adams for Jay's first miss of the night. Into Cyrus. Oh, a mismatch there, but they'll double with Mobley. Oh, Ekpezi comes over with the help defense and the denial. Another block for him. Stockard the three, no good. Capers, who's had a quiet start so far, can't make the layup. Adams fires a three, no good. J.R. Bremer, like we mentioned, checking in for the first time tonight. Bremer will fire the three. That one doesn't go. Mobley with the board. In the corner to Idris Key. No good.
Both teams really pushing the pace. Back and forth, fast-paced action to start this first quarter. A lot of threes being shot.
Bremer now. Kick it into Cyrus again. A mismatch there, and this time it pays off.
Yeah, Mahdi was caught out on the perimeter.
They like trying to have those switches and getting some mismatches as we have a timeout as somebody's trying to take a selfie with Coach Schmidt.
You can do that in 2018. You won't be able to do that in 1970, though.
Is it going to be like one of those concerts or stand-up comedian acts where you can't bring your phone in?
I don't know. I think just the time traveling. I don't think you're allowed to have phones. We do see a Detroit Pistons blimp flying. I think that's Bob Lanier's Detroit Pistons blimp. He might be doing some recon, some scouting. I don't know why he can't just sit in the stands. He has to show off that he has a blimp, but he is probably scouting out these teams.
I mean, I'd love to drive a blimp around the Riley Center.
We did see the Bucks blimp. We don't know if it was Jay Adams or Bob Lanier's in Butler Gym last week.
16-13 early on here. 12-12 left in the first half as Tim Wynn reaches in for the foul. That'll be his first. Adams now with the ball. Almost shoots the three over to Stockard. He fires, no good. Tim Wynn, nearly stolen by Mobley. Patricio Prado will step back. The long two falls for Patricio. The devil wears Prado there.
Got Mobley to leave his feet on the pump fake, then the drive, step back, long two, and a green release for Prado. That was beautiful.
15-16 as Isaiah Brockington, who checks in for the first time, he misses. And that'll go out of bounds. That'll head over to 2000 as David Capers will come back in for Prado. We also saw Darian Griffin check in for the first time. Oh, this will stay with 2018. See, it's so hard when you're talking about two Bonnies.
Yeah.
They looked like they were walking down the court. Mobley up and good on the layup. You know, no matter what happens tonight, we will get Bonnies versus Brown Indians in the final.
Yes, we will. Just don't know if we'll have a three-point line yet.
Nope, we don't know yet. It's Tim Wynn into the lane. Over to Cyrus, and he's going to get fouled. Of course, if 2000 does win this one, it wouldn't matter who wins the other game because 2000 is a 6th seed, and they would be easily the lowest seed.
Yeah,
they are the lowest seed remaining.
We had a 6th seed make their way to the Final Four. Otherwise, we have 3 of our top 4 seeds. I think the biggest upset was that 2021 over 1977. And we saw 2002 take down 1952. They were a lower seed as well.
And of course, this team took down the Iron Five, like we mentioned earlier, in the 1968 team. Of course, 2018 has yet to play anybody from the 20th century as Cyrus makes the second free throw. Adams gets the screen from LD, no good on the shot there. Meanwhile, Cyrus in transition to Robert Cheeks, who checks in. He had a great game against 1983.
Yeah, he was really crucial in that, and he had a great game against 1952. So really a role player. Cheeks has stepped up against 52 and against 83.
1918 early lead here once again for 2000 as we come up on 10 minutes left in the first half. Tim Wynn into the lane. Oh, tightly guarded by Darian Griffin. Capers fires the three, no good. Rebounded by Adams. Turned over there. Tim Wynn with the huge heave at the end of the clock here before our under 10 media timeout. And it's been a tight contest so far with 2000 up by 1.
Yeah, Mobley and Adams have come out pretty hot, which is good news if you're 2018. Although 2000, I mean, if you said Mobley and Adams are going to come out that hot, they might say, uh-oh, like we are going to have our hands full. But they do have a 1-point lead after 10 minutes. So this should be another good Bona Cup game.
Absolutely, as we get you started again here in the second part of the first half. Winner plays either 1970 or 61. That'll be especially important to see what rules we play by, because if 1970 wins, we will not have a three-point line in the championship game. As a tough foul there by Bremer. Bremer a little frustrated with guarding Mobley.
Yeah, Bremer and Mobley, although it was senior Bremer, were going at it last week, and now they're going at it again. They might have just had enough of each other. Bremer shoving Mobley.
As it's turned over there. Haswell Cyrus now kicks it into Van Passen. And PvP with the slam.
Hard slam there. I think that was on Mobley. That'll wake up 2000 if Bremer's shoving of Mobley didn't wake up 2018. These two teams going at each other early. They look like they don't like each other.
PvP showing off that strength. As Griffin with the ball, with the shot clock winding down. He'll have to fire from deep. No good. Win with the board. Darian Griffin, like we mentioned, will be joining us in the second half. Get 18 points in 2018's win over 2002 as Cyrus goes up and in as 2000 now with their largest lead of 5. And a timeout for Mark Schmidt. Not happy with what he's seeing out of this 2018 team.
Yeah, they might need to make a little switch there. You saw Nelson Caputo coming in. Maybe we'll see a little 3-guard offense with Adams off the ball, Caputo at point guard. Maybe try to get Adams and Mobley going on the wings. We'll see if Brockington stays in as well here.
It's too bad we couldn't get the for the timeout entertainment, get a couple wagons to do the covered wagon tour races.
Oh yeah, or the Big Shoe Shootout.
Oh, the Big Shoe Shootout, of course. No datingsite.com kiss cam though.
No, that's new. And the Simba
I didn't
cam.
even know. That's such a generic name of a website too. Datingsite.com. It's like something you would make up when you're like, oh, my girlfriend from Canada or something.
Yeah.
Oh, we met on datingsite.com.
Kip from Napoleon Dynamite. Haven't even got a full body shot yet.
8:16 left to go in the first half. Tim Wynn tightly guarded by Ladarian Griffin. He is going to go to the free throw line as LD picks up his first foul, and he's not very happy with that call, it seems like.
Wynn doing a good job attacking the hoop. Getting the foul called on LD. Two fans of the Bona Cup going at it. Tim Wynn was in the chat room rooting on 2000 for their game against 1983. And he'll be happy he's not in the Armory anymore with any of those weird backcourt violations.
We also notice we have branding for, this is basically the Eastern Conference Finals, so we have a playoff atmosphere here in the Riley Center, which is very fitting considering we got a Final Four here, as Cheeks will check back in for, or sorry, Vital Messiah will check back in for 2000.
Yeah, 2018 going pretty small here. Griffin will be at the 5, Stockard at the 4 there at 6'5", and then that 3-guard offense with Caputo, Adams, and Mobley. Let's see if they can chip away at this 6-point deficit.
24-18. As Mobley fires the 3, and it's swish. Beautiful shot there from Mobley with the step-back jumper. Tim Wynn will fire a 3. That one won't go. Mobley with the board. Into Ladarian Griffin, out now to Adams. Mobley looking to set up a play. He'll get the screen from Griffin. Oh, and the alley-oop. Oh, it's stolen. Couldn't connect on the alley-oop. Schmidt will not be happy with that decision as Stockard with the rebound.
This 2018 team was throwing oops left and right against 2002. That one didn't have enough lift on it for Griffin.
Griffin can't get it to fall as Vital Messiah with a tough defense on him. Bremer now over to Capers. Capers fires the 3. Oh, a tough shot goes.
Capers can hit that. He was a pretty solid three-point shooter by percentage.
Out of bounds. Let's see where that goes. We also have a whiteout here. Usually Riley Center whiteouts are bad games for us except for the 2018 win over URI.
Davidson game last year, a whiteout when they hit it like 53s.
Worst Valentine's Day ever.
It was Valentine's Day.
It was, yeah. No love that night as Stockard hits the 3. Cut it down to a 3-point deficit. Winner of this one will take on either 1970 or 1961 Thursday night here on SB Unfurled YouTube. Cyrus with the miss. Jay Adams looking to set it up. Shot clock winding down. Over to Mobley. Mobley fires the 3. No good. Rebound for Cyrus. Into Vital Messiah in transition. He puts it in 29-24.
Messiah's been so good in transition in the Bona Cup. I feel like he's always slashing to the basket and getting feeds from his teammates.
And a steal by David Capers. Out to Tim Wynn. Fires in the corner, no good. Mobley with the rebound. Caputo misses his first action tonight. Tim Wynn tightly guarded by Mobley.
They have a mismatch with Capers down low on that guard. It was Caputo.
Now Caputo's on him. Griffin with a miss. Rebound for Mobley. Mobley had a lot of rebounds in the win over 2002 as Stalker gets around Bremer and makes the layup.
Stockard getting going now. He was our player of the game last game against 2002 for 2018. And he's getting going a little bit now. We have Adams, Mobley, and Stockard all clicking. It's gonna be tough. But 2000, Capers looks good. Wynn has been pretty good. Cyrus is keeping up his solid Bona Cup performance, and they're out to a 3-point lead.
Mark Schmidt imploring his guys on the sideline to keep up the intensity as 2000 has led for most of the first half, but not by a lot. It's been a very, very tight game so far. I believe the largest lead is 6 as we resume play here. Cyrus being guarded by Griffin again. Backs down against LD, but with a tight defense, Griffin gets the rebound. Caswell Cyrus, almost a double-double already, 10 and 8. As Capers into the lane, he'll get it to fall.
Beautiful take by Capers. And on the other end, a nice pass inside by Griffin into Adams. Adams wasn't able to finish, and 2000 came back quick in transition.
Mobley fires from deep, rims around and in.
They needed that quick answer. Mobley's been sensational so far this half.
31-29. Patricio Prado into the lane. Oh! Passed up an open layup there for a second as Stockard got into the defensive position as Griffin tips it in on the lob.
He was just tipping it up to himself, kind of making sure that pass didn't get intercepted. It ended up going in the hoop.
Missed there, but a rebound for Cyrus. He puts it in. 33-31. Mobley again fires from deep. That one falls again. Matt Mobley really heating up already.
I think Mobley has 4 or 5 three-pointers already in this one.
2018 back out in front. 2:47 left before the half. Wynn goes up against Griffin and can't get it to go in as 2018 runs out. Stockard with a 17-foot jumper. .2018 shooting 45% early as Tim Wynn challenged by Stockard can't get it to fall.
Wynn doing a good job getting to the hoop and attacking, but also good defense when he gets to the hoop to challenge his shots by Stockard and Griffin.
Tough night for Wynn, 0 for 8 shooting. As Taki into the lane, steps back out, no good. 36-33. Winner of this game will take on either 1970 or 1961. You can see that game later tonight, right here, same link.
Should be another really good game. Stith versus Lanier.
And if you're just joining us, we'll be, as Prado makes the jumper, if you're just joining us, we will be joined by Ladarian Griffin, who is on the court right now. As we call a timeout, we'll be joined by Ladarian Griffin to talk about, his time at Bona's, because he has been a fan of the Bona Cup.
LD will be mic'd up for the second half. He was on that great 2016 team, and he was on, of course, this team, and also that 2019 team that went to the championship of the Atlantic 10 tournament with current players, Lofton, Oshun, Welch, Alpha, all those guys were freshmen. So he has come full circle for sure, being a freshman with Dion Wright as a senior on that team playing under him. So he'll have a lot of insight for us into all of those teams. And then for the 61 versus 70 game, we'll have Mike Vaccaro on for the whole broadcast.
Nearly stolen. Taki gets it back, though. Long two for Taki. No good. Rebound, though, for Stockard up against two guys. Oh, Caswell Cyrus, though, denies him. Capers for three. No good. Jalen Adams now. Taki once again with the ball back out to Adams with 10 on the shot clock. He gets the screen from Griffin. Can't get free, though. Shot clock winding down. No good. Capers with the rebound. Come up on 35 seconds left in the first half. Tim Wynn off the glass and in.
Nice take by Wynn.
2000 jumps back out in front, 37-36. Last possession potentially here for 2018. Adams for three. Yes, it goes. Jalen Adams nails the three. Final possession here of the half with 2000. Tim Wynn fires the three over Jay Adams. No good. And that'll do it here. It's been back and forth, a very tight affair so far. But 2018 now with a 2-point lead. This is the SB Unfurled and Friends halftime show.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some highlights and then take you through the box score, shot chart, and the team stats. I have to imagine Matt Mobley, the leading scorer so far, he has been really good. But Adams has also been phenomenal for this 2018 backcourt. They're both clicking. Stockard had a good half. And for 2000, Cyrus and Van Possen have been really good down low. They have that size advantage inside. 2000 taking advantage of that size for PvP and Cyrus.
We knew that this would be a battle of guards, and so far the advantage has to go to 2018 on the outside. But like you mentioned, as we see Van Possen here slamming it home. Caswell Cyrus already with a double-double, 12 and 10, but Matt Mobley with 17 points early on.
Yeah, Wynn has been a little off offensively. He did have that nice take at the end of the half. He'll need to step up in the second half, and then you have some guys from deep who can hit like Bremer and Prado. We'll see if they can get going again like they did in the last game as upperclassmen against this team for 2002.
Adams, Mobley, and Stockard did not rest for a second in that first half.
That makes sense.
Neither did Capers or Cyrus. As we mentioned, Cyrus with 12 and 10 already, but relatively even scoring for everybody else. Of course, J.R. Bremer, younger J.R. Bremer, no points so far, as well as Tim Wynn, who's, like we mentioned, had a very cold shooting night.
Yeah, as good as Adams and Mobley had been, to have Wynn and Bremer only combined for 2 points and you're still only down 2. Like, you had a chance to go into halftime with the lead even under those circumstances. You got to be a little bit worried about that and how that front court with PvP and Cyrus are playing if you're 2018.
And for 2018, we've had some good three-point shooting as we look at the shot chart here. Nearly shooting 100% in some of those spots as they're shooting 47% from deep. That's been a key for them as 2000's been cold. One of 12.
1 of 12 from deep for 2000. They've been awful from behind the arc. It looks like those games when the three-point sliders are set to 0. But still only down 2. I mean, you have to feel good about that.
And like we mentioned with PvP and Caswell Cyrus, the rebounding advantage is in 2000's favor with 26 to 21.
Yeah, and the points in the paint as well. That's how they're staying in this game. 26 of their 37 points are in the paint versus just 14 of 2018's 39.
Now you can go ahead and play if you want.
I wonder if I can share my audio now that it's not going to echo.
Let's see. Yeah, try it.
So I can hear the crowd. Hold on, let me see where all right, let's try it. Ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go. We'll go back.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it now, yeah.
All right.
Welcome back, and look who has made his return to the Riley Center. Bicycle Guy.
Scuffing up that nice floor.
And not only is Bicycle Guy here, as we see Matt Mobley with a huge first half, 17 points, we are joined by one member of this team in the class of 2018. It is Darian Griffin. Darian, welcome.
Hey, what's up, man? What's up?
So what do you think about what you've been seeing so far here in the Bona Cup as we get a foul there from Mobley?
Man, I've been loving the whole tournament so far. Huge fan of the work you guys been doing. So I'm hopefully our team can get the win today.
Yeah. So like, what did you think when you first saw yourself playing once again for the Bonnies?
Man, it brought back a lot of great memories from this team. And I just enjoyed seeing how I was dominating last round. But I think that this whole thing's been a great experience, just watching it kind of like as a fan and seeing how like you guys enjoyed this team so much.
Yeah, LD had 18 points, 8 rebounds last game against 2002. That game I think was full of the most highlights we've seen. Tons of those alley-oop dunks and putbacks that you had in your career. You had a couple of really nice dunks, especially. Stockard misses the shot there. You kind of got your rotation down, too, because normally you would sub in for Kesey after like the first few minutes of a half.
Yeah.
Fouls picked up there by
I definitely
Stockard.
liked it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said, I definitely like how the rotation. You guys even got the shoes down packed, and I was like, okay, yeah, these guys, they got it down all the way to every detail.
We weren't able to have your shoe fly off like it did against URI.
And what's crazy, like that whole thing, I didn't realize how goofy it looked because the whole time I didn't, like probably for most of the season, I haven't had any issues. And the one time my shoe comes off, it's on like ESPN and everyone knows.
But it was a big stretch there too, because I think you had like a block on one end, and then like you had a dunk or a putback or something like that on the other end. So that was wild. That's why I call you Shoeless Darian Griffin.
Yeah, like it seems like that just took on a legend of its own. That game was just so special. I think just for that group, it kind of was a defining moment for that group.
That game, I'll never forget. It was on my 30th birthday, and we were really lubed up. It was packed house. There was no empty seats. But since we're on the topic, I was going to ask you about this. You got to tell us about a rumor I heard about an NIT ball in that
game. Man, like, hey, that NIT ball is legendary. Shout out to C-Stock, man. If you know, like. But yes, the NIT ball was put on a rack. And what happened with it, ended back up in Rhode Island. I don't know how. I'm not going to talk about how it ended back there. We returned it to them. I'll just say that.
Yeah, Rhode Island and Bona's were the top 2 teams in the conference, and we did hear that in our warm-up rack before the game. Dan Hurley from Rhode Island, who's not there anymore, toss a little NIT ball, a little gamesmanship. But hey, we love having rivalries. It's great to have a nice heated rivalry in the Atlantic 10, isn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd probably say that game had kind of like big magnitudes to just being a nationally televised game. It kind of showed the whole like world that the A10 was a legit conference and that we were a legit tournament team.
What was your favorite game to be a part of? Was it the UCLA game? Because I know that team had so many great games, Syracuse, and even when you were a freshman, that game at Dayton. Like, do you have one game that stuck out to you that you cherish more than the other ones?
It's probably I can probably have one every year. Probably the freshman year probably was winning at Dayton because like it's been such a long time since like Bona's won at Dayton and just the performances that like all those guys had is crazy. Just to kind of be a young guy and see all those moments and how incredible that crowd was and finally and seeing how hard it was to win there. Probably my sophomore year, man.
Matt Mobley into the lane with the dunk.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Probably my sophomore year. I don't know. Because I probably another one, maybe freshman or sophomore year was Marcus, his 47-point game. That was, oh my gosh.
Yes.
That was a crazy one. And probably junior year probably was it's a tie between UCLA and Rhode Island. Both of those games were special.
Back-to-back dunks, 24 points out of him already. As a timeout was called by 2000 after they briefly tie it up.
Yeah, you were part of a lot of great games. That Davidson 3 overtime game has to be up there too.
Man, like that year was just full of great games.
Yeah, down the stretch, you guys couldn't lose. Beat one at VCU, Syracuse, that Rhode Island game, that Davidson 3 overtime game. This team that we're watching right now from 2018 went on, and you guys started the conference. I think it was 2-4, and then you won 12 straight games to end. Like, when you guys started 2-4, what was the mentality in that locker room? Like, you guys knew you had to win out, or what were you guys talking about after that little rough start?
We knew that we were a good team just off of the non-conference, and we just came off a rough start. Because I think conference is kind of where you're starting over. It's like a whole nother season. You're starting over. So, and you're playing teams that you know you're going to see again and you're going to have to beat to make it to the tournament, make it to where you want to be. So when we got to the 2-4 start, we just knew that we needed to come together and we need to figure out how are we going to make this thing right and how many games are we going to have to win. We're going to have to win all the games from here on out to even have a chance. So we just came together and everything just kind of came and clicked at the right time, and we just started just running them off, and it was an amazing kind of experience just because with all those games, those close games, it was kind of like we knew that if we lost any of those games that all the hard work we done from non-conference to now would have been kind of thrown away.
Yeah, I remember going into that year having such high expectations too, with Adams being a senior and Mobley, and then Adams getting hurt in that exhibition game and dropping, like, right off the bat, dropping that game to Niagara. You're like, oh my God, the sky is falling. But you guys were able to pick it up after a couple tough losses. Every time it seemed like you guys bounced back and were able to go on a run and really make that the most special season probably the last 50 years.
First shot misses there on the free throws. LD, you have not checked in quite yet in the second half here, but I think you're going to be coming in fairly soon.
Man, I just hope I'm not trash. Like, hopefully I can come be a spark for this team.
2K is very random. You never know who's going to have a good game or a bad game.
You were telling us before, you said you like playing 2K in general, right?
Yeah, for sure. this 2018 team, we love playing 2K as a group. There's been a lot of road trips where we were playing 2K and just enjoying that time as teams, just being a team and hanging out off the court. And that was one of those things for us, that just sitting and playing 2K.
Well, you're from Jacksonville, so are you a Heat or a Magic guy or somebody else?
Nah, down here it's more of a football state, so like basketball teams we really aren't crazy fans about, but I just like the league in general, just all the talent and how it's a global game. So I just love it all.
Yeah, you're part of the global sphere of Bonnies because you're in Sweden, or not right now, but you're playing in Sweden. How's playing in Sweden?
It was amazing. I really enjoyed the experience, and it just when you go overseas and you start playing, you just realize how amazing, how blessed I had it to be able to play the game I love and do it for a career. So hopefully I can keep it going and make some more memories.
Yeah, we all wanted to see you back for that TBT, but that unfortunately kind of fell through with them cutting down from 64 to 24. But next summer, we're going to have to get all you guys back together and really put on a show in Syracuse.
Yeah, I think so. COVID kind of messed all everybody's plans up, so hopefully we can get back to normal life as possible, quickly as possible.
Do you know any of these older guys like that you're seeing from 2000? Did you ever meet them? Or do you connect with them at all, or even guys from past eras? Are you familiar with any of them, or?
No, I'm not at all. I haven't really met any from the past. Mostly the fans kind of connect and tell you their favorite memories from their former Bonnie players, and it's kind of cool just hearing all the stories from all these different teams that we've seen in this tournament that you guys created. That you kind of see it, like how special and how amazing the Bona family community is.
Yeah, so I mean, how do you think you all would stack up against some of the other historical teams kind of in this tournament? I mean, you made the Final Four, but like if this were realized, hey, you checked in.
I mean, it'd be kind of biased, that
Ooh,
I think that
nice
we're the best.
Nice move by LD and the foul
Right off the bat, and one.
Man, I like it. But yeah, I think we were the best team. If you ask any of us, we'll say we're the best teams. But I think that's just the ego of being an athlete. You always think you're the best.
And we know if you guys were the 2 seed, if 1970 is to win, you guys wouldn't be able to have the 3-point line in the championship. How would this team change if you didn't have the 3-point line? Because Jay and Matt obviously relied on that a lot, and that's what made you guys go and so lethal. How do you think you guys would do without a 3-point line in the 1970 rules?
I mean, I feel like we switched, like we played in 2018. We switched a lot of stuff. We would have had the double Bob, but it just had someone else beat us. But I think if both of us make it to the finals, I think that it'd be a great game, and it'd be kind of the talk that everybody would want to know is who was the greatest team of all time, Bona's, and I think it'd be a great game.
Yeah, so many people have watched the 2018 team. Of course, any Bona fan's probably really familiar with it, but not so much the 1970 team or even like this 2000 team, which I was a young kid, and I remember this was my first team that I really probably fell in love with as a Bona fan, being probably 11 or 12 years old. So I have no dog in the fight. I just want to see a good game. I'm hoping LD has a great game because he's coming on with us, but we'll see. If it's anything like the past games, it's going to be a nice close affair here.
57-53 with 12:54 left to go in the second half. The winner will play either 1970 or 1961 on Thursday here in the Riley Center, presented by the Shanghai Bears.
Yeah.
J.R. Bremer no good on the 3. LD, what do you think of what we have to use for the Riley Center here, other than the Chinese basketball logo? Looks pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think it looks really, really, really similar. It brings back like just like made how amazing that arena was, like just to be in there and just have the fans cheering and just the energy you guys gave to each one of these teams is special.
A little Outcast for us in the 2000 music.
Yeah, we modded these arenas in. These were brought over from different types of games that you can play in 2K. Normally, you can't. You can only use generic arenas, but this arena looks so much like the Riley Center that we had to use it, even though there is a lot of ad space being taken up behind the basket by a Shanghai Sharks video board. But everything else looking like the Riley Center here.
59-53. 2000 out of that timeout as Tim Wynn will go into the lane and lay it in.
Your freshman year, LD, you played Matt Mobley hitting a long two there. You played behind Dion Wright, and then you made a really big jump from your freshman to sophomore year. What went into your development? Because a lot of the times at Bonas we see that a guy will come in as a freshman, work a lot, and then step into that bigger role as a sophomore or junior.
Just knowing that I was gonna have to step up the next year, just start putting in as much hard work as possible. Just working with my dad and just trying to try to get as much talent as possible out and try to help the team the best way I could. So I was happy with kind of like that jump, but I knew I needed to make a bigger jump, even more that junior year. So it was just being able to have hard work and not have a lot of distractions with going to school like St. Bonaventure. It really helped me.
I saw you're still making jumps. You're shooting threes now professionally. You step your game out behind the arc.
Yeah, yeah. Especially over there, there's no really defense 3 seconds, so you kind of learn that you won't be able to drive as much, so you kind of have to work on your 3-point game or your in-between game. So that's just what I want to keep getting better every year. And just because I enjoy playing the game, I enjoy just having basketball as a job. I just can't wait for next year.
Adams is stripped on the play there. Tim Wynn back with it inside. Ooh, shot misses there towards the rim. And a foul on Patricio Prado. 12 seconds left before our under 10 media timeout. Of course, we have a whiteout in the Riley Center. That's the same that we had for the URI game that LD played in. And as we all know, lost his shoe and had a great block and putback. We head into the timeout. 2018 continues to hold the lead.
And we saw in 2018's last game, they had a huge lead, and I know Darian was watching that live in the chat room and kind of not being too conservative with the shot clock, gunning threes, coming down, shooting quick, having a lot of quick possessions. 2002 actually came back from down 21 with under 4 minutes left and made that a 3-point game. So up 6 here, but no lead is safe. Some of those guys from that 2002 team, like Patricio Prado and J.R. Bremer, are on this 2000 team. Of course, it's more senior led, but you get a nice assist there to Stockard. So 6-point lead, but not the safest lead in 2K. We'll see how this goes in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, LD, what'd you think about that second comeback that 2002 had on you guys?
It kind of just 2018. It kind of like we love to close games. It seemed like so it was only right that every game we played was going to be close in 2K.
Oh, Bremer misses another short layup. Griffin gets out. Oh, and LD gets fouled by Caswell Cyrus.
As a fan, looking back, those close games were great, but in the moment, that run of close games took several years off of our lives as fans. I think some tough games to watch, but you guys always seem to come out on top that season.
Yeah, it just that team was just resilient, and it was kind of like that. We, as a group, we were kind of older, so we kind of seen everything. So it kind of helped us throughout the season. That every time we got in a close game or we were down, going into like the last like 3-4 minutes of a game, we never panicked. We were always under control and felt like that we had a chance in every game we played. And it kind of was a testament to just the kind of leadership we had and kind of team we were.
Caswell Cyrus now over to Bremer. Tricio Prado almost stepping out of bounds here. 5 on the shot clock. Back over to Bremer. Bremer fires the 3, and that one falls. 2000 has cut this to a 1-point deficit.
We thought this team deserved to have a better seeding than that first 4 game, but it did give us our first tournament win in 50 years. I'm sure that was a great experience, but what's it like the quick turnaround? Because you guys played on a Tuesday night late. As Taki gets that offensive rebound, puts it in. Then you had to turn around and play a Thursday afternoon, so it wasn't even 48 hours. You had to travel from I think it was DC to Dayton and then down to Dallas. What was that turnaround like?
That was unique. Just because we bus from DC back to campus and then watching the selection show. I think we lost that Saturday, and then come back and watch the selection show that Sunday. Yeah. And then finding out we're in the first 4 and we got to go to Dayton, it's just we were kind of, I don't think we were disappointed. We were kind of angry. We kind of were like, okay, like they don't believe that we're as good as we are. And we just wanted to come in and play against UCLA and compete and show that we were deserving of a higher seed, and we were going to try to make some noise in the tournament. And after we got that win, it was kind of crazy going on a jet to Dallas, and we're kind of trying to figure out, okay, like we can't celebrate this win, like now we need to get another one. So it was unique, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough turnaround to make that switch. You guys must have been fatigued a little bit by the time you did get to play Florida. But you still got that special moment in there on that Dayton.
Has Osiris in the lane, but LD with a nice defense both times. Way to have active hands on D, LD.
I like the defense.
Oh! The alley-oop and behind the back slam. Courtney Stockard. You guys had a dunk contest in the 2018 squad. Who's winning? Was it you or Stockard?
Me, of course. I don't even think he had that many dunks that year.
The ones that he did have were very illustrative. As Taki goes into the lane and he's going to get fouled like a piece of rock.
Yeah, the alley-oop in Syracuse stands out. You can just hear the rim rattle and like the fans behind the bench, behind the St. Bona bench go crazy. I was at that game, and that was another great game, great alley-oop that you had in that one.
Yeah, that game was just special. And it was kind of crazy that they put like our student section like at the top of like the dome, like.
We were in the 300s. I think it was 316.
Like it was kind of it was still like, you guys were so loud that we could hear you from the floor, even from the highest point in the dome.
had to have been a nice Christmas present too to get that win, just because it was like 2 days before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was.
So I rewatched the movie recently, that the little 8-minute montage that they put on, and like Schmidt says to you guys, enjoy your Christmas, because it was like right before you guys went home for Christmas.
Yeah, it was funny just hearing all the stories that everyone was so happy and thanking us for that Christmas gift, and we were kind of like, well, we didn't think it was gonna be that special, but it was a special thing for us as players, and that it's kind of great to see that it was special for you guys as fans.
Adams misses the shot there. Inside 5 minutes with 2018 up by 7. Matt Mobley gets a steal. He'll fire the 3 in transition, and it misses. Lucio Prado with the board.
And then after the season, you and Courtney were seniors on that team with guys that we're now familiar with, the current players, Lofton, Oshun, Dom. What did you kind of pass down onto them as the senior leaders of that team? You guys had a great run. Fell just a little bit short in Brooklyn, but that was one of the most fun weekends we've had as fans. As senior leaders, what do you kind of pass down to those guys that we see now?
Really just to enjoy it, to don't take anything for granted, and just lead by example. It's not really about what you can say. It's kind of being a leader in your community, around campus, and just hold each other accountable. I think that's the biggest things you can leave behind to younger guys.
A lot of us going into that year didn't. You get a nice pass.
Oh, LD with the slam.
Nice dime. I like the dime.
And Caswell Cyrus is heated that he got called for a foul on that one. Darian puts 2008 up 7, a chance to put them up 8. And you got a little takeover icon underneath you, a flying wings icon. See if you can capitalize at the line here.
That's about the only time you'll hear the Riley Center quiet on a free throw like that, as LD converts the and one to put 2018 back up by 8 with 4:24 to go.
Yeah, going into that your senior year, we knew we still had you and Stockard, but we didn't know how good Lofton. I mean, we knew Oshun, the looks that he had at other colleges, and Welch, the all-time leading scorer. When did you know, like, oh, these freshmen are for real? We're gonna actually do a lot better than maybe I thought.
Probably when the point where we had so many injuries. When I was out, Stock was out, Melky, a couple other guys were out. So just seeing how they were competing in every game, and you kind of see the growth that they were having from game to game. That you knew that these guys were going to eventually get it, and once we all get back healthy, I think that we thought that we were going to have a great year, and we ultimately had a great year. So, yeah, those guys are special, and we knew from early on that they were.
Yeah, what was that season like? Just because I believe we started 4-10 or 4-11.
Yeah,
ended up getting a double bye.
It was tough. It was tough just because being injured, you kind of couldn't really help. You couldn't help those guys out there, and we just knew that we just needed to all get healthy and try to make a run at the conference tournament, and we did. We just won. We were one game away, man. But it was an amazing run, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It was so much fun. Yeah, like you said, 1 3-pointer away, but it was still a hell of a run, especially with mostly younger guys. Tim Wynn makes a shot there to get this back to a 6-point lead with 3 to go as Jay Adams, little give and go action, lays it in.
Yeah, that feed from the Darian inside to Adams.
Good assist, LD.
Yeah, that tournament, like let me ask you something. As fans, like how would you guys say that tournament was for you guys?
Oh, the Rhode Island game, the semifinal game, that might have been my favorite like day of like being a Bonnie's fan. Like even though it wasn't a championship, that day was just incredible. That second half run against URI was just it was you just couldn't script it any better than that.
Yeah, as fans, tournaments are so hard to plan for because you don't know how long you're going to have to stay, but we got there for the whole tournament. I was there for the Mason win and then obviously for the rest of the tournament, and you just see more and more fans come every day, and, you know, having that double bye, you're like, wow, we can really go on a run. These freshmen are basically sophomores now, and then you have Darian and Courtney as the senior leaders. Like we really weren't scared of anyone, and once we saw VCU go down to Rhode Island in the first round, we were like, wow, like we can really go on a run here, and then we did that. I mean, it was a great weekend.
Yeah, that was as for players being players during that time, it was crazy because like you had the first game jitters, probably seeing everything like, okay, this is the tournament. Okay, how is this gonna go? How are we gonna play? Because you've never been there before, never been in the Barclays Center, so it's like, okay, we need to get off the right foot. And once we started playing, we started feeling more and more confident, and then we started seeing the fans. Actually, it just started like doubling every time, and we knew it was serious when that St. Louis game, the championship game, that it was like fans were there like an hour before, and it was just like, wow.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of 2012 run that I got to Atlantic City on Thursday, and just every day more and more fans, and by playing on Championship Sunday in the A10, no matter where it is in the U.S., you know the Bonnie's fans are going to be louder than any other team there. So it was a great showing. And I mean, even though we didn't end up winning, you just kind of felt proud of the program, and being on CBS on national TV at 1 o'clock, getting that exposure for the program and learning experience for all the freshmen. Like it was definitely fun.
83-72. We're inside 2 minutes and not quite over, but it's looking like 2018 may punch the ticket to the Bona Cup final. Bremer in the corner for 3. That falls, though. And we saw 2018 have a little bit of trouble closing out 2002. Let's see if they can close out the slightly older squad here. LD, what's going to be key to holding on to this one right now?
Getting really good shots, take care of the ball, and just defense. Really, this team is really good on defense, so hopefully we can carry that into the game and win it, close this out.
Stop there from Idris Taki. Nice defense there. Coming up on a minute left. Oh, LD with the alley-oop and the slam. That could be the exclamation point in this one.
Y'all even got the scream down pack. I like it.
Van Posten lays it in. Still an 8-point lead for 2018. Here's the Riley Center crowd loving this as Matt Mobley, the player of the game, misses. Rebound for Stockard off the glass and in. Getting the lane. Tim Wynn lays it in. And it's looking like 2018 will have a date with either 1970 or 1961. That game is coming up next here on SB Unfurled YouTube. LD, he can't put it back in though. Final seconds here as
stop right here. Yes.
Three-pointer misses. LD with the board. Matt Mobley is going to dribble this one out as 2018 last team to win an NCAA tournament game is going to the Bona Cup final as the confetti falls in the Riley Center.
And next game, 1970 versus 1961. If Bob Lanier and 70 can win, this 2018 team won't have a 3-point line. So they'll probably be rooting for 1961, that Tom Stith, that great team with him and Fred Crawford. We'll have to see, but that was a good start, and we're going to get to see a little bit of a celebration for the 2018 team here in the Riley Center.
Be more confetti. I don't think we're going to have Bicycle Man clean this stuff up before the 70 and 61 guys get out, because not only do we have to clean up the confetti, but we got to actually take the paint off the court and put down the 1970 court. So let's look at some of these highlights here. It's Peasy with a layup or dunk there. Jay Adams was more of the focal point in the last game, but Matt Mobley took over tonight, and he was key for this win.
Yeah, and Mobley last game, him and Bremer had a little bit of a quiet start, so you get him to get going if you're going to go through the Bona Cup and win the whole thing. And that is the Armory Regional Championship Trophy. Before we look at the box score, 30 points, 6 boards, 5 assists for Mobley, 24 for Adams. Stockard was 16, 8, and 6.
A little quieter for you tonight, LD, with 9 and 9, but still almost a double-double, so that's really good.
Yeah, man. I'm just happy we finally going to be playing in the championship.
So what do you think about, as we look at some of the stats here, we got Caswell Cyrus had a great game, 20 and 16. What do you think of 1970 or 1961? Like, what do you think could happen in those games if you guys play one of them?
I mean, it's gonna be if we play 1970, it's gonna be a tough matchup. But I think that's what the fans would want. That's what we would want as competitors. But I mean, we're just happy to be in the championship. I think, and I think 1961 it'd be a good defensive game. So either one against either team, I think we'll have a good chance to win. Hopefully, we come out with a win.
You might have to guard Bob Lanier. What do you think of that?
Double, and double.
Yeah. Some weak side help for sure on the Dauber, who was kind of unstoppable last round. But you guys have the weapons, you guys have the balance and the offensive firepower to take down either of those teams. I think it could be a really good game as we check out the
2000 actually had a little bit of a rebounding advantage, surprisingly.
Yeah, they have those two really good big men down low, 6'10 and 6'11, and Cyrus and Van Passen. Really, really strong defensive front court. But hey, 8 threes compared to 3 threes. Not the best shooting night from deep from either team, but you have 5 more threes. That's 15 points right there.
Big time in close game.
Look at some more of the stats here. Cold 3-point shooting night for both teams, really.
Yeah, and you look at, I mean, that maybe that's a good thing for 2018. You don't need to necessarily rely on the 3 if you don't have to, because they're not going to be able to next game anyway. So that mid-range game, and they're gonna need LD down low and a little bit of Amadi and Stockard slashing, maybe try to get Big Bob into foul trouble. But we'll have to see on Thursday. And thanks for joining us, LD. Up next, we'll get 1970 versus 1961. We're going to be joined by Mike Vaccaro for the entire game. He'll be dropping a lot of Bona knowledge with those older teams. But for this game, it's good for LD to come on. Thanks for coming on, man. It was great to have you and see you guys pick up a win here.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining us, LD, and good luck on Thursday because you'll have a tough matchup one way or the other.
Oh, yeah. I'll be watching for sure.
Thanks for joining us, and stick here, everybody. We will have the 1970 and 61 game coming up right in a few minutes.
Wade in the water, children wade.
everyone, to the 2020 Bona Cup Final Four. Bona commenter here with SB Unfurled, getting you ready for 1970 versus 1961. Two of the best all-time Bonnies teams are playing here today.
Yeah, I think anyone who looks back and knows a lot about St. Bonaventure history would say 1970 and 1961 are the two best teams in school history. I think 61 peaked at 2 in the country in the AP poll. 70 peaked at 3. They both ended the season 3rd overall. And not only the two best teams, but a lot of people would also say the two best players in school history will be going head-to-head today in Tom Stith and Bob Lanier. So it should be a great show.
And you said anybody who knows a lot about Bonnie's basketball history. We got one man who definitely knows a lot about that. Mike Vaccaro here from the New York Post. Thank you for joining us, Mike.
Guys, I'm fired up. This is the dream lifetime of my time as a Bonaventure basketball fan, so I can't wait to see how it goes.
So if these two teams had to actually play in real life, what would you think about this matchup?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'd love to watch Bob Lanier in his prime because, unfortunately, by the time I got around to watching him, a little bit before my time at Bonaventure, he was kind of already an aging NBA star. But he was still formidable. But I never saw him in his prime except for whatever kind of video we have from those days. And there's even less about Tom Stith. So Tom Stith is really almost the product of oral history. You know, when you spend some time in around Bonaventure and in Olean, around the old timers, you know, they could get downright poetic talking about Tom Stith. And it was always fun to listen to these guys. You know, the longtime fans who were there for both the 61 team and the 70 team, and the pride of the Armory and the pride of the RC, and listen to them really debate who was the better player. And I think, it's funny, I asked Bob Lanier one time that question, and he said absolutely Tom Stith. He said Tom Stith was the best player I ever saw. He said if I could have ever been the player that Tom Stith was, then I really would have accomplished something. And that's saying something because Bob Lanier's pro career was certainly a lot more formidable than Stith's, and he wound up in the Hall of Fame as a result. But watching these two guys go at each other would be worth the price of admission and then some.
Yeah, and you were on the panel for the all-time team, which I went back and watched. I figured everyone would have Lanier 1, Stith 2, and when I went back, you were on that panel for the 100-year anniversary with J.P. Butler and I think Gary Neese was on it, and Chuck Pollock was on that. All of them had Lanier and Stith 1 and 2, so we know what we're getting there. You also had Fred Crawford from the 1961 team in your top 10, and then Matt Gant as well in your top 20 from the 1970 team. So 4 of your top 20 players of all time will be in action today. Can you talk a little bit about, Fred Crawford as well being a top 10 player of all time on this 61 team, and Matt Gant, like what they bring to the table?
What's great about Crawford is that, obviously Lanier is the standard bearer for Bonaventure guys in the NBA, but Crawford had a great career also. I mean, he was kind of a journeyman. He played on a different team every year, but he was a key element on a lot of those teams, including at the end with young Kareem on the Bucks. And he's a guy who's a legitimate New York City legend. I've been around him when he's been to the Barclays Center for an Atlantic 10 tournament, and people still recognize him. People still remember what kind of a player he was. And it's really unfortunate because along with Stith, he's the one, he came down with TB in the late winter and spring of 61, and that really is what kind of sidetracked that Bonaventure championship push. I mean, they lost to Wake Forest, and it would have been the equivalent of the Sweet 16 in those days, and they just weren't near at full strength. I mean, I think when you go back and you look at that team, you look at what they did against Ohio State in the Holiday Festival, and both these teams really announced themselves at the Holiday Festival, which is kind of ironic and interesting. The 70 team by winning it, and the 61 team by almost beating Ohio State, which was considered an unbeatable team. And clearly by the end of the year, they weren't that as good a team as they were then. And part of that is because Crawford and Stith were both diminished players, but Crawford's a terrific player. And Matt Gant, I mean, I have seen plenty of video of him. The thing that he's the kind of talent that still brings guys to their feet when they think about the kind of athleticism he brought. He out-jumped Artis Gilmore in the Final Four game in 1970. He blocked a couple of Gilmore's shots, which is pretty impressive to think about. And just terrific players. Another guy in this game that I think squeezed in the top 20 is Billy Calbaugh, the point guard for the 70 team, and I think he got there. It was kind of a last either or between him and Whitey Martin, who's going to be the other point guard on the 61 team. So that's another matchup really worth looking at in this game because really until our modern kind of crop of point guards came around, kind of starting with Glenn Hagan. It was really those two guys were 1 and 1A in terms of who the best point guard in Bonaventure program history was.
Absolutely, and we just saw Whitey Martin there
to look
for
at some of the teams.
61. Now we'll get 1970. Let's check out this starting lineup here.
Here we are in the Riley Center.
It's a nice outfit.
Brought to you by the Shanghai Bears.
What's that, Vac?
That was a nice outfit Eddie Donovan's wearing today. He's got his Sunday finest on.
Yeah.
And here's a guy that people sleep on. Paul Hoffman was a terrific player, 6'2" power forward. He played so much taller than himself, and he was really a reason why the 70 team was able to gel as quickly as it was as a sophomore.
Rocking the glasses there, of course.
Absolutely.
Here he is, Bubba Gary. Became a very quick fan favorite at the Hofstra game earlier last year.
And a player favorite, too. I mean, when he kind of strutted out there during the introductions, that was fantastic. And he really made an impression on the kids the night before when they all had dinner together because he's one of those guys who just relates to everybody of every generation.
Here he is, the #1 overall player in the Bona Cup, 1970 Bob Lanier, who we didn't even need to customize since he exists on the all-time Pistons.
That's perfect, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Lanier a 95 in the Bona Cup. Tom Stith a 94. They are 1 and 2. So we'll get the top 2 players here in the Final Four. And our second game now in the Riley Center. We just saw 2018 take down 2000. If you're 2018 Vac, who would you rather see, 70 or 61 in the championship?
Well, I think 61, just because Lanier had the opportunity every time he ever played to drop 40 on you, and probably could have dropped 40 every time, except that he was so unselfish. In fact, his teammates still chide him about the fact that at the holiday festival they wanted him to keep scoring more, and he kept dumping the ball out because he didn't want to dominate the scoring sheet. So I think if I had my druthers, I'd do anything in the world to avoid 1970, strictly because of the big man.
And we are underway with 1961 winning the opening tip here in the Riley Center.
And you'll notice I went back and found an old picture of the Riley Center floor in 1970. Very plain. A big change from the last game we saw with our modern court.
Look at the big cat disrupting things already.
First possession, no make there for 1961.
And another thing, if you're 2018, you want 61 to win because then you can play with a 3-point line.
That's very true. That's very true.
Going back, maybe at 61 should have been the second-ranked team, but it was more top 4 tier, and then we went by finding interesting matchups and not having players repeat too much across the bracket.
You just see how unselfish that 70 team is. I mean, they're always looking for each other, and that's kind of a message that was kind of brought down from Bob Lanier. I mean, he insisted everybody touch the ball, and everybody kind of bought into that the whole season, which is why they were so special.
It's like when Jim Morrison was announced, the Doors were announced as Jim Morrison in the Doors, and he refused to come out because they said Jim Morrison in the Doors.
Absolutely right. There you see Lanier. I mean, that might have been a little uncharacteristic coast to coast for 1970, but he certainly was probably ahead of his time as a big man because he was a guy who could shoot, which in those days was really unusual.
Yeah, and what we've noticed in 2K, a lot of the big men, if they get a defensive rebound, they just bring it up themselves. And
they think of themselves as stretch fours. They've always thought of themselves as stretch fours.
Yeah.
That's a quick early foul for the big cat, so keep your eye on that. He certainly, I guess the 70 team learned how to play without him, but as they also learned, they'd rather not have to do it.
Absolutely.
First foul there on the Dauber as he was trying to block the shot on the layup.
One of the things when you look at the 61 team guys is that, you look at their scores. They were a team that always scored the 90s and sometimes in the low hundreds. And, it was partly because they had great players in Crawford and Stith and Whitey Martin, but they also played a style that was really ahead of itself. I mean, full court press all over the place. I'm not going to say that Rick Pitino was was influenced by Eddie Donovan's style of play, but it's certainly very similar, and you'll see a lot of that in the way that 61 team played. 94 feet up and down, a lot of fast breaking, and a lot of full court defense.
Yeah, I can't remember what they called it, if they had a name for it, but someone I was reading said they were like the first ever havoc defense that we saw.
Absolutely, they sure were. I believe they called it the jump-up defense in those days, and I think that actually was something that Eddie Donovan invented and was credited with. Yeah, that's just a mismatch. I mean, there's nobody's going to be able to take Lanier one-on-one. I think if I'm AD, I'm thinking about trying to double that as much as possible.
Of course, 1970 Bob Lanier had 49 points in the last game for 70, and easily the performance of the tournament so far. Whitey Martin into the lane.
Look at that move by Whitey Martin. Yeah, look who he runs into.
Jarrell with the shot clock winding down, can't get it to fall. Dauber bringing it up court.
Dauber's feeling his oats.
Goes out of bounds. It'll go to the 1961 team. Of course, sometimes it'll say Brown Indians ball, and it's like you have to wait or look at the ref and see which way he points.
Exactly.
They're both Brown Indians as we get a timeout on the court. With an 8-0 early lead for the 1970 Final Four team.
So as we said, there's no three-point line, of course, in 1970. Who's the guy at Bona's that went there that didn't have a three-point line that we would have looked back and said that's like one of the best three-point shooters in Bona history, but they didn't have a three-point line to bury all those threes?
Sure. Mike Cull from the 70 team is the guy that all those guys in the team always point to. He could shoot. He actually got lucky because he got hurt in his sophomore year, so he wound up getting a fifth year, which wound up being that 1970 year. But he was a dead-eye shooter, and he wasn't quite as valuable when every basket counted for two. But his long-range shooting really did open things up underneath for a lot of the other guys in the 70 team.
Do you remember what his injury was?
I believe it was a knee. I think it wasn't as bad as the John Hayes injury, which really, John Hayes is another one. John Hayes, interestingly enough, didn't get a red shirt in the year when he probably could have, and he could have been on this team. And John was one of the great, almost overlooked great players in Bonaventure history. He was a fantastic part of the 1968 team that went undefeated for 22 games, and he hurt himself his second or third game as a sophomore after leading the country in scoring as a freshman. And that's not only a good achievement anyway, but when you consider one of the other freshmen in the country that year is Lou Alcindor, that told you the kind of player he was. And he was a great player on the 68 team. He was a little bit banged up again in 69, and he was playing amateur ball in 70 when he really could have been a fifth-year senior. And that's kind of something he's always talked about. It just wasn't something they thought about doing. But I remember asking him one time, he said, "Yeah, I probably would have liked playing on that team."
Oh yeah, and we just saw 1968 that Ironman 5 go down to 2000 last week as Bubba Gary gets in the lane and finishes. And if you thought the Bona Cup was short on details, that's why I brought up asking what that injury was. Cole and Hayes both had those knee braces on in the Bona Cup.
That's great. That's hysterical. I mean, it's also tells you just it's a reminder just how good those players were and could have been. My goodness, this is a bad start for 61.
12-0 early.
Oh, nice play there by Stith though. That's great play by Paul Hoffman right there.
Coast-to-coast chase down block like you see LeBron do sometimes.
There we go. That's a nice play.
Whitey Martin versus Calbaugh.
There we go. That's a nice play by Whitey Martin.
Into Jarrell for the first basket for 61.
Oh, look at Calbaugh with the shake and bake.
He can't get the layup to fall, but he gets his own rebound. No good on the putback.
Boy, they're having a hard time getting anything up over the big cat.
Yes, they are.
Paul Hoffman, little jumper doesn't go. Matt Kent though with the board and put back.
Yeah, that happened a lot. They were classmates. That happened a lot during the 3 years they played together.
14-2. It's been all the Final Four team so far in this one. Whitey Martin up and under to McCulley no good, and Dauber with the board. By the way, Mike, do you know what the Dauber means?
I have to be honest with you, I don't.
We looked it up in the last game. It's a combination between Bob and Big Dipper.
That's hysterical. That's a good. That makes a lot of sense. That's great. I have now been officially educated on this broadcast. I like that.
Because we were wondering, we were like, what does the Dauber mean? Like, never heard of anything like that, but that's what it means.
Let's see if Freddie Crawford can get on track here, because he was really the reason, be behind the 61 team success. Because obviously teams couldn't focus on Tom Stith just because Crawford would easily drop 50 on you too if you just kind of forgot about him.
So if 70 does win this, and they're off to a great start, or even if 61 does win this, they'll be up against Mark Schmidt in the finals. So who are you taking as your all-time Bona coach? Has that been sealed by Schmidt yet? Do you still need to see more? And why would you pick who you pick?
You know what? I'd pick Schmidt. I really would. And it's all due respect to the guys who came before him. The two guys who coached this game, Donovan and Weesey, obviously belong in the conversation. So did Jimmy Satlin. So did Jimmy Barron. But when you consider not only what the Bonnies have done under Schmidt, but consider what he took over, when he took the job over, and what, just the mess the program had become. And not only that, but then to bring them to a level of success they've been able to sustain. I think that was the thing that even the most optimistic of us never believed they could do, was sustain success in the Atlantic 10. And they've had now, 5 years in a row where they've won 10 games? That's just that was just a pipe dream for those of us who remember when they used to struggle to win 3 and 4 games a year in the league. And it's not like the league is a joke anymore. I mean, the league is as competitive as it ever is. Now, maybe it's a little bit heavier from, say, 10-1 as it is from 11 to 14, but you still have to deal with a lot of pretty impressive teams every year. And the Bonnies have their share of wins against them, and they've been able to have the kind of their share of teams that are competitive with all the top teams in the Atlantic 10 over the last 6 years. So from that standpoint, I have to give it to Schmidt.
Yeah, I would
14.
agree. In recruiting in this day and age, and the X's and O's, and everything that goes into just the college basketball landscape, I would have to give him the nod at this point.
One of the reasons why the 61 team looks the way it looks, is because Eddie Donovan, to his eternal credit, was ahead of the curve in terms of recruiting African American athletes. Now, to a degree, that was because they weren't allowed to play in places like the Southeast Conference or the ACC. But he took advantage of that. Obviously, Sam Stith, Tom's brother, was the first African American recruit, and you could see there was a pipeline that kind of developed because it wasn't just that players enjoyed playing at Bonaventure, but their families and their coaches respected and appreciated the way that they were treated, both by the coaches and also by the Friars, and also by the students at St. Bonaventure. And that was a real reason why they were able to kind of emerge from kind of a crowded crop of very similar. Northeast Catholic schools in the time when they became a dominant team.
We shared on our last podcast, actually, the story of the 61 team having to eat together because when they were down in for the Wake Forest game, they had to eat separate. They had to stay in separate hotels or something.
Well, I know that's one of the reasons why they didn't play in the 1960 tournament, which it was because they were going to have to stay in different hotels. And it was so jarring. And that 60 team was awfully good. Now, they didn't have Fred Crawford, but they did have Sam Stith, who's no joke as a player himself. And they never got it. They wanted to decide to go to the NIT just because New York City was a little more friendly place for an integrated team to play than it was in the South, where they would never really have to play. But my understanding is that what they did was they wound up engaging some alumni and boosters. They wound up finding a place where they were able to stay together in 61. And because they knew they had a good team all year, they were able to kind of start that process early on. So they knew that, assuming they were going to get invited, that they would have an opportunity to be able to stay together as a team, which is important.
Steal there for 1961 as we see them try to cut the lead to 4.
Yeah, there we go. We're starting to steal a little bit. That's, as long as Tom Stith can get out on the floor and get a little open, I mean, just watch. He's going to be fun to watch.
Once trailed by 12, now only trailed by 4 for the 1961 Sweet 16 squad. Fred Crawford out in transition will put it in, as now it's just a 2-point game.
It's Freddie C, and this is exactly kind of what I thought. The 61 team was great because they were never out of a game because of the way they played defense and the way they were able to run the floor. Even, they could spot a team a 10 or 12-point lead, and it wouldn't make much of a difference, assuming they were full strength, although you probably might want to guard Bubba Gary there.
Bubba Gary dancing his way in for the layup.
Nice sharing of the ball. A little backdoor cut by Gary into the lane. Unselfish there.
Tom Stiff into Fitzmaurice, and it goes in. (18-16). 10:35 left to go in the first half. Rebound there is going to go out of bounds, but it will go to 61.
Pretty impressive when you consider how this game started. They got a shot to tie this thing up before the end of the quarter.
Tom Stiff will take a quick seat, get a few minutes of rest. So will Calbaugh. Whitey Martin over the dauber and in.
He loves it.
Beautiful floater over the dauber.
Big Cat was just not big enough on that one. As we now have a tie game here.
Let's see if Cole tried to set himself up for 25-footer so it makes us look smart.
Cole into the lane. Over to Lanier. And Lanier will not be able to make it. Final shot doesn't fall. And we're in our under 10 media timeout. And with a really fast start for 1970, 1961 has stormed back to tie it up.
That was a fun quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked like 70 might get out and control this game from beginning to end, like some people may think they could do with Lanier in this game, but a nice battle back there.
They came back so quick that I wasn't able to I'm sure that'll not be the last time I say it, but when they got a big lead, I was going to say, well, make sure that Coach Weesey takes Bob out of the game at some point if the game gets too far.
Yeah.
But so far 61 hasn't allowed that joke to kind of make the
right.
You know what I'd look for here? I mean, what's really great about these two teams is that, Whitey Martin and Billy Calbaugh in a lot of ways were the same player in the terms of on their own on a different team. Those guys both would have been 20-point, 25-point scorers. Both of those guys understood that the team was better off if they were more facilitators. Obviously, Calbaugh's wingman was stiff. I should say Whitey's white wingman was stiff, and Calbaugh's was Lanier. And you see the product of that. It kind of goes through the whole team, understanding how to play the game right.
Yeah, we saw Calbaugh in that 68 team last week against 2000, and Tim Wynn, such a great defender, kind of shut him down.
That's a second shot clock violation for the 1970 team. Getting a little bit of trouble for them on offense now after getting out to an early 12-0 lead.
They always have the secret recipe that Larry Weesey will probably say until his dying day, which is get the ball to Bob. I think eventually they'll probably get back to that formula.
Good strategy to have.
So there he is with the rebound. And it doesn't go.
There's the big man. Wow. You can see Stith was an inside-outside player, and that's kind of what made him so dangerous. He was really unique for his time. Eddie Dedovan always said the only thing that was a problem with Tom Stith was reminding him that he had to play for 40 minutes, because if he ever played for 40 minutes, he swore he'd be the best player that ever existed.
The dauber and the putback and the foul. Fred Crawford getting the foul call as Big Bob using the glass.
One of the great things about a game like this, guys, right? Nobody can accuse us of being homers, because who are going to be homers to? We want them both to win.
Yeah, we got that when we did the Atlantic 10 tournament simulation. Everyone, VCU fans especially, saying it was fixed.
You mean they weren't understanding about that? I can't believe that about VCU fans.
Yeah, I have no dog in the fight. I just want to see good games in this for sure.
Yeah, we didn't pick brackets. We had, I believe, 63 people pick brackets in our challenge website. 1970, of course, was the fan favorite as Fred Crawford goes up and under.
Nice.
He gets to the ball and the foul on Bubba Gary, and Crawford is excited.
Maybe it's the 54 jersey, but I see this version of Fred Crawford reminds me a little bit of Eddie Pinckney, circa 1985. Also going at the pretty celebrated big man in his best game. Look at those uniforms. I mean, that too. These are also the two best iterations of the uniforms ever, I think, in my opinion. And it was so great to watch the 2019-20 team the 4 or 5 times that they took over the 1970 uniforms. They were so...
Oh, yeah.
They just really pop on the screen to me. I'd really love to see that become more of a part of their uniform rotation.
Absolutely. I think they'll wear those again this year. I know commenters' favorite is those 83 script uniforms, too.
83. The 83 white ones are beautiful.
Those are pretty sweet also, definitely.
23-21. Shot clock winding down. Lanier will put it in, though, to tie it back up.
That's not a bad safety cracker right there to be able to get it into the big man with like 2 seconds left in the shot clock. You're seeing Crawford. I mean,
short jumper goes.
Like I said, Crawford, no joke, and at his best, he was as good as any player that ever played this program. And, you know, it really would have been wonderful to see what his career numbers would have been like, as great as they were, if he would have had 3 healthy seasons on varsity, as opposed to having to, miss 1 year entirely, and also that. That 61 season was kind of compromised toward the end. Is that 2 on Lanier? Was it a foul? I couldn't quite tell.
That was a...
swatted that into the student section, okay. I think.
Good idea.
Yeah, we don't want the Dauber to have to... He finally makes it back to a Final Four, and these refs are going to foul him out of the game. That'd take some cojones.
Look at Stith.
Stith with a nice jumper is a 4-point lead for 61. No good there, as 70 is really having trouble on offense. Lanier, though, with an important rebound there. Bubba Gary into the lane. Over to Big Bob off the glass. No good, though.
Looked like he got pushed in the back a little bit, and then Stith diving for that ball into the 70 bench.
It's great. I love the fact that both these iterations of the uniforms have St. Bona on it, because when I was a student there, that was what they had. And it looks a lot better when your team goes 24-3 or...
Yeah.
Whatever he's saying, as opposed to the 5-23 that I saw. The uniforms weren't that pretty in that year.
Yeah, they did say St. Bona quite a bit. I remember that 2016 team always had those St. Bona. It was kind of our thing until recently.
No good on the shot. Bob Lanier with the rebound for 70.
That's
Thomas into Lanier and gets it in.
He only made that move about 150 times a year. That little up and in move, just impossible to stop.
And we will get a timeout on the floor.
I didn't think about this, guys, but this is, I think you kind of touched on it. This really is kind of a poignant moment for Lanier, because he never did get to play in the Final Four. So this is really his first Final Four opportunity, which when you think about it in those terms, kind of makes it all the more interesting to see him play in this game.
It was great.
I don't think they were throwing out T-shirts in the 1970 Final Four like this.
It was great seeing those guys come back to the Riley Center. I think Bob Sassone and Whitey Martin also came back, not for that Hofstra game, but for a different game as well. So
yeah, I saw that. I remember
these guys came back.
Terrific.
(27-25), 6 minutes left to go in the first half. Tom Stith, tightly guarded, out to fire the shot. No good. Not a big surprise here. 1970 has a rebounding advantage, 15-11.
Yeah, but the
Stith will put it in.
The number that matters, 61, showing that they're no joke. Absolutely not.
And Stith this season still holds the Bona record for points in a season. He scored 830 points. Also took 622 shots, made 327 field goals. Those are all records that still stand for St. Bona.
You think you get tired shooting the ball that much?
Yeah.
There you go. Just hard for these guys to keep up with Lanier because he's so agile around the basket, and so big, and just so hard to move. And if he gets his hands on the ball, he's going to do what he wants. He might not make every shot, but he's going to be able to go where he wants to go.
Gary into Lanier, backing down his man. Couple little moves there, but the fadeaway. A little finesse by the Big Cat.
Turnaround fadeaway jumper out of a triple team there. How do you stop
19 points already for Lanier.
He came to play today, boys.
He had 49 in the last game, so he's looking to possibly surpass that. But Stiff, he'll go into the lane and make the layup.
Victor Thomas getting some quality minutes in this game. He was a guy who, in a couple of years after Lanier, became a pretty prominent player on the team, but didn't get a lot of time this time. But I guess Larry Reese has a feeling.
Yeah, I think they go about 8 deep in this game, this rotation. There's Vic Thomas, gets some minutes in the first half. See
so
if
Schmidt would like that. Schmidt would like that. A nice tight rotation.
Oh yeah.
We were just saying how Kyle Lofton would fit in perfectly into the Iron 5.
Man, he sure would, right? I mean, it really is amazing when you think about it. And I mean, John Hayes has posted what the number was. I mean, just the number of minutes they played as opposed to the number of minutes that the team as a whole played, it was incredible. I mean, they played literally like 95% of the minutes, even in blowouts, which I guess we're probably kind of familiar to guys to fans of the last couple of Bonaventure teams because. Schmidt says about Schmidt, he doesn't leave anything to chance. He leaves his guys in until he really has to. He really feels good about the final score.
Yeah, those 5 played in all 25 games. Of course, the next most games played on that roster was Dick Ulazowitz at 13, my high school English teacher.
Wow, how about that? Boy, Lanier really is having his way underneath, and it's almost like Donovan understands that he can't let his prime big guys get into foul trouble. So it's almost like. They're trying to say let him try and get a shot, make it as hard as they can for him because he really is spending a lot of time at the line and he's still dominating.
Yeah, Bob McCauley, that's starting big man for 61. He goes at 6'9", which is he's a good height. It's not like that 52 team with their biggest man being 6'5".
Paul Hoffman off the glass, no good. But once again, Bob Lanier with the rebound and put back.
Let's say AD needs a timeout here, boys.
Let's see if we get one. Doesn't look like it.
70 now getting out to a 4-point lead after 61 had a 4-point lead of their own.
With Stiff on the bench. Oh, no, he's back in. He did take a seat for a bit there, as did Crawford. So if you're making an all-time starting 5, Vac, I know you'd start with Lanier and Stiff. Who else are you putting in that starting 5?
Jalen Adams is probably on that list for sure. I'd probably put Essie Hollis on that team because he's a guy who gets overlooked even though obviously his team on the NIT, but he was just a terrific player.
Yeah.
So that gives you 4, and man, then you have a lot of guys you can choose from. Nicholson is a guy who obviously it's hard to keep out of the lineup. I'd probably go with him. Although, you know what? I mean, probably the most underappreciated and undervalued player in Bonaventure history is a guy named Glenn Price, who would have been a freshman this year in 1970, became a sophomore the next year, had one of the great careers of all time, but it's kind of underappreciated because he only played in one postseason, the NIT, the next year, and there were a lot of underachieving Bonaventure teams in the years after this year. So you kind of forget about guys like him and guys like Carl Jackson. In fact, I'm wrong. It was Carl Jackson who was a freshman this year and played the NIT the next year. Glenn Price didn't play in any postseason tournaments in his 3 years, which is part of the reason why I think he's kind of under-remembered, if that's even a word.
Glenn Price, number 20 with the afro, right? Is he from the
That's
DC
right.
area?
That's what he was, and he was. You know, it's funny. He was actually his presence at Bonaventure was a direct result of this team, because this team was on TV a lot in the East, and you know, a lot of players took to their style of play, and you know, I think he was sold as being kind of the next Bob Lanier in some ways. And while nobody's the next Bob Lanier, he was a heck of a player. He really deserves to be remembered. And part of the problem is there's just not a lot of video that remains of him playing.
Yeah.
Even in that the celebration back in December, there wasn't a lot to show of Glenn Price as a player. There was one move against Niagara, I think at the Tap Center in 1972 or something. But he was a great player. The 61 team is hanging tough, even though it looked like 70 was ready to blow it open again.
Yeah, luckily when creating this 61 team, I was able to go back, and on YouTube there's an old video of this 61 team playing against Duquesne.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
You can barely make out who's who, but it's about a half-hour video that I looked at to try to get this team as accurate as possible. But these teams are.
I'm sorry.
No, these teams are just tough to create when you don't have the advanced metrics. I don't even think they kept assists, and there wasn't any video either.
Yeah, I think
Bob Lanier just picked up his second foul, by the way.
Something to look at for sure. I was about to say the same thing. It's that's a guy they don't want to live without. I'm sure that he'll take him out of here for the last minute and a half of this half just to try and keep him from getting that third. But not yet.
What would happen in the Riley Center if they fouled Bob Lanier out of a Final Four game?
Those refs would never make it back to the hotel, I can promise you that.
Tied at 37, 124 left before the half.
Mismatch down low.
Wow. It's good defense right there.
Oh, and it goes out of bounds. Bob Lanier not careful along the baseline.
Saw Bob Lanier posting up Whitey Martin. Once he got the ball, I thought that was a sure two, but he spun out of bounds. I think he stepped out. Decent defense down there by Martin. Not much he can do with Bob, but he did a good job there.
You know, guys, props to McCulley, the 61 center, who really is mismatched here, but he's holding his own. And he's a guy who really had a pretty good career. He had a really good senior year the next year. He averaged about 16 points a game, got drafted by the Syracuse Nats. 6'9" was a real presence for a pretty good team the next year, which was Larry Reese's first year as a coach, actually, in 61-62.
Why did Donovan leave after this season? Do you know?
Well, I mean, the Knicks came calling, and it's hard to, and even when they did, I mean, Donovan thought he had a pretty good deal in New York, or I should say in Olean. His family was from Olean. His in-laws were all from Olean. I mean, there was a real pull for him there. And in fact, later on, he wound up going back and becoming the GM of the Braves right in the 1970 season because he wanted to be closer to his in-laws. So there was a real strong pull there. But look, I mean, the Knicks are the Knicks. And he was getting a pay raise that was hard to calculate, probably 5 times that he was making at Bonaventure. And look, when the Knicks give a call, I mean, you got to take that shot. And he tried to replicate it as much as he could. I mean, he drafted both Martin and Stith that first year, and unfortunately, Stith was diminished by the TB, and Martin just never quite made it. But and obviously, what we know Eddie Donovan for is building that 1970 Knicks team as a GM.
Mm-hmm.
No good for Lanier on the putback because we are coming up on the end of the first half. Fred Crawford, he'll go up and put it in, and the foul is called on Calbaugh. No quit in the 61 squad.
61 could have the lead at halftime here.
Would have been tough to imagine when they were down 12-0 early on.
Here it is.
And Fred Crawford puts them in the lead, 40-39. Last possession here. Bob Lanier backing down his man. It goes in. And the Dauber puts 1970 out in front at the half. A tough performance for both teams, going back and forth after an early lead for 1970, as they'll head into the locker room up by a point. This is the SB Unfurled and Friends halftime show.
In the summertime, a 1970 hit by Mungo Jerry, the best mutton chops of all time. We'll get some highlights, and then we'll go through the box score, check out who our leading scorers are, and then should be a good second half. We have see who gets to play the 2018 team, and if we will have a three-point line or not in the championship.
You know, it almost seems guys like Crawford and Stith are both playing with a chip on their shoulders. They want you to remember that they were pretty good players also back in the day, and maybe Lanier, as great as he was, he shouldn't get all the press clippings.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. Lanier had 49 in the last game. We'll see. He's already at 27 points, 16 rebounds. Another ridiculous half by the Dauber, and we'll see if Stith and Crawford can maybe at least combine to outscore the Dauber. I don't think any single one of them will outscore him, but maybe they can combine to outperform the Dauber this game and then get some help from guys like Whitey Martin.
Look at that line score.
13 of 21 shooting, yeah. 16 rebounds already for him.
No assist.
Look at Gant. I mean, that's really accurate to the way things were. Gant really kind of a quiet conspirator for the whole thing there with 10 points.
Crawford and Stith both 6 of 10, 14 and 12 for them. Martin, the next highest guy, Martin and Fitzmaurice with 4, as well as Jarrell. So that's all. It's been all that duo so far. It's been Stith and Crawford versus Lanier.
You know, guys, I mean, I think that if Larry Weese wants to kind of put this thing to a place where it's a little safer, I think it's clear. Just watching that first half, the 70 team is the better team, and I think what they need to do is figure out a way to take one of those guys out. If they can figure out a way to keep either Crawford or Stith a little bit quieter in this half, I think they'll be able to kind of pull away here, just because they just have a deeper, better supporting cast, I think. But they haven't been able to do that yet, and I know the one thing they don't want is for Lanier to get his third foul quick, or to get it at all if they can avoid that. But it really is amazing to look at that line. What's amazing to look at that line is that it looks like a video game line, but it actually could have easily been a line against Canisius or Duquesne or anybody else that played in that year.
Yeah, and you talk about what Lanier does on offense. We saw that, but if you looked at Bob McCulley's shot chart down low, there is a lot of X's for missed shots down, and that's what Bob did on the defensive end as well. And here are the team comparisons. 47% from the field for 61 and 43% for 70.
What I'm amazed at is how many shots in the paint that the 61 team was able to get. Early on, it looked like Lanier was going to swat everything in sight over the backboard and into the stands. But you know what I also like is seeing the crowd at Riley Center. It looks like maybe the same fire marshals who were on duty for the Duquesne game in 69-70 when they got what I think it was 62-91. I think that's the all-time record, which was pretty funny for a building that's never really sat more than 5,200. I remember one time talking to Larry Ford, who was who operated the University Center, which is what it was called that year. And of course, he could never tell that story without breaking down laughing, because with a wink saying, "Yeah, no, the fire marshals had nothing to do with it." But people who were there said that they were sitting in the aisles, standing, in the corners. I mean, it was just amazing. And we've probably all experienced some great Riley Center crowds before, but there was nothing like that, just because of the sheer volume of people. And it was a big win too. That was their first big win that year.
Was that the Duquesne team that had those twins that were brothers?
That had beaten them twice the year before, during the probation year when the bodies were kind of down a little bit. And that was kind of the first game that everybody pointed to, because I think, speaking frankly, a lot of those era Bonaventure teams didn't exactly lead the nation in strength of schedule. I think that's pretty fair to say. And that Duquesne game was an important game because it was right at the end of the first semester, so all the students were getting ready to go home for Christmas, and they were all fired up, and probably had a couple of Burton burgers under their belts by the time the tip-off came. Mm-hmm. And, of course, that was kind of the game that kind of sent them on their way to the holiday festival. Really, the whole kind of narrative of the season was written.
Fred Crawford gets it back into Stith, who puts it in.
Just great teamwork by the 61 team. I mean, they really do look for each other well, and that really was the way they played. I mean, that's why it was so shocking when that 99-game winning streak at the Armory came to an end against Niagara, because they just really had approached where they looked like just a perfectly oiled basketball machine.
Yeah, and we saw at the half, 70 already has 9 turnovers as well, so that's that defense that they played too, forcing some turnovers.
And they'll take that shot from Lanier all day. If the 70 team does have an advantage with Lanier, but I don't know they want him doing 18-foot fadeaways as good as he is. I think they want him closer to the basket.
(42-41). 1-point lead here, beginning of the second half for 1961, who trailed by 12 early on, 12-0 actually.
Look at this defense.
Active hands there for Crawford, almost gets the steal.
Ooh.
Oh, and a loose ball foul on the Dauber. That's his third. A big third foul picked up there.
Interesting. It looked like that was going to be a shot clock violation, and that foul would have never counted if it was a shot clock violation. But I don't know if that struck iron or if he fouled him before the ball hit the backboard. But either way, that's a big third foul on Lanier and something we'll have to keep an eye on.
No points so far here in the second half for 1970.
There we go.
Lanier gets around his man, but can't put it in.
He's missed a couple of bunnies here today, fellas.
He's missed 10 shots, 13 of 23, though. 27 points.
Matt Gant now.
Tough defense there by 61.
Oof.
Whoa!
Gant does not
The take and the foul. Matt Gant picks up a foul as 61 looks to pick up a 4-point lead.
We saw that McCauley against our modern team. I mean, Oshun, granted, did have some thunder dunks on McCauley, but every time he was able to get back down the floor and get those huge buckets, he really won them that game against 2021. Doing those kind of plays that you just saw, and now capitalizing maybe on a 3-point play, and maybe this is their biggest lead of the game at 4 points.
Tied for the largest lead for them at 4.
All credit in the world to these guys keeping Lanier at a distance from the basket where he's not as comfortable as he usually is.
Cowball has to fire with the shot clock winding down, and another shot clock violation, the 4th one on 1970, being held up on offense.
Yeah, this 61 team came out of halftime, like Vac said, looks like they have a chip on their shoulder. Some excellent defensive possessions here in the first 3 minutes and change to start the second half.
Critical stretch here, fellas, because I don't think you want to give 61 more confidence than they already have. I mean, if they can maintain this lead going into the fourth quarter, I think they have to believe that they're as good as the 70 team, and that then all it takes is to try and play better than them for 10 minutes. I mean, you gotta. It's at some point the 70 team, if they're going to make their move, has to make their move. I mean, I think we all were expecting that to happen all game long, given the way the game started. But it's really time for them to kind of buckle in, I think.
45-41. 1961 out in front. The winner will take on 2018 in the Bona Cup final.
Nice play. And that's a reminder, it's not a one-man team right there, because that's a heck of a lot of ball movement there, and that's also what the 70 team is known for.
Yeah, we saw that, I think, exact play in the first half. Bubba Gary slashing to the basket, and it worked again. A nice backdoor cut there.
That's the bread and butter right there.
Into the Dauber, who puts it in for the tie.
Bread and butter. How How many times did they see 11 to 31 in that year? Wow.
There's a give and go, and Stiff will make the nice little jumper there.
Someone better guard Stiff. A lot of his baskets are coming with not a lot of pressure in his face.
16 points for him so far. Oh, Bob Lanier is fouled on the way up by Jarrell, and the Big Cat will go to the free throw line.
Tough game so far for Paul Hoffman, but I mean, I think you're seeing exactly why he was such a fan favorite. I mean, he keeps going to the basket, he keeps getting blocked, he keeps getting offensive rebounds, and he experienced one of the toughest moments a Bonaventure player ever has. No time on the clock in the 1971 NIT. All he needed to do was make one of 2 free throws against Georgia Tech, and they'd get a chance to play North Carolina in the finals. And he missed both, and they wound up losing in double overtime to Duke. And it's just in double overtime to Georgia Tech, rather. And but it's amazing what good humor he has. His teammates were still breaking his chops about that when they all came to campus in December, and he had great humor. He was a teacher for a long time, so I guess he's got a lot of perspective as to what really constitutes a personal crisis in your life.
Yeah, we had Caleb McGuire on, who was a walk-on for that 2018 team, or 2016, sorry, and he said that Paul Hoffman was his teacher, I think at Belmont or.
So he was a girls basketball coach there for many years, also. Back in fact when I was taking high school scores at the Olean Times-Herald.
61 gets back out in front. Lanier out and puts it in.
Oh, was that a dunk, guys? Because that's a little questionable. Dunks weren't allowed back in those days.
That was a finger roll. He did not dunk that one. It looked like he easily could have, but decided to lay it in.
With the right hand, no less.
Yeah.
31 points for number 31 so far.
Nice pass. That's what all of his teammates will tell you. If you had a better shot than he did, you were going to get the ball. That's one of the reasons why his teammates still revere him 50 years after they played together. Whitey Martin, not intimidated at all. I love that he's got no back down in him. That's exactly the kind of player that I always heard he was, and we're seeing that for real right here.
Yeah, great matchup. Martin versus Kalba at the point guard position.
Oh, Matty Gant just cost his boy an assist right there. That was a nice pass. They are not giving up. This is great to watch.
61 getting back out in front. A counter punch there.
Oh, 2 more bunnies.
Lanier missing a couple right at the rim. Matt Gant gets the steal on the other end. Calbaugh being tightly guarded by Whitey Martin. No good. Martin with the board.
Riley Center getting loud.
If you had to pick a student section, would you take 61s or 70s? Who do you think had the better crowd?
Well, I mean, I never saw a game in the Armory, but I'm told that was the most intimidating place to ever play a basketball game if you were a visiting team. So, I'll call it a push and take and admit to a cop-out.
Enter those who are not fearful of death, Bob Sassone said. Was on the sign-up.
Of course, both these teams actually played in Butler Gym early on in the Bona Cup. We had the Olean Armory regional for the other half.
Well, one of the great things that I did one time, they were a nice give and go. Paul Hoffman got to make that layup. You know, one of the great things about I was able to experience during my couple of years working for the Times-Herald, I got to know Bob Sassone well. he was coaching the Olean JCC team there, his last kind of coaching chapter. And he took me on a tour of the Armory, which is where that team played their games. And it was just wonderful watching him in that building because obviously he was a player there. He spent a lot of years as an assistant coach in that building, saw almost all the important games that were played in that building. And, you could just see as he was looking around, he could actually still hear the cheers and smell the cigar smoke and the cigarette smoke. And that was a really neat day.
Yeah, in that Unfinished Dreams documentary, there was a clip of him talking in the Armory, talking about what it was like to play there, how there was only lights on the court. You couldn't really see anyone in the stands, but you could just feel them and hear them. And then in the second half, it was even harder to see because of all the cigar smoke that filled the building.
That's right. And in fact, I have a friend whose father played for Seton Hall in those days and played 2 games in his career at the Armory. And he said there was a guy with a cane who was about right around mid-court. And if you were on the other team, you were going to get bashed in the shins about 17 times a game by the guy with the cane. Never got a call. Never got a call on him the entire time he was there.
Foul ball with a tough runner in the lane does not go.
Oof.
Cutting stiff, can't make it, but he will get fouled. Hard foul there for number 42.
I think that was 4 on Matt Gant as well. His 4th foul. Still over 10 minutes left in this one.
Of course, even though there are some NBA rules, we have been able to reduce the foul outs to 5, like college. So 5 and you're done. As Tom Stith makes the first free throw. Petrovic will come out.
Petrovic, who made a key play in that unforgettable game against Providence, 1960. Probably either the first or second best home game that the Bonnies ever played. It's either that one or the Davidson game during the memorable 2018 season. Both those games are kind of bookends in terms of the most unforgettable games in Bonaventure history.
Tom Stith makes
what was the key play that he made in that game?
After Providence had stolen the ball back with a chance to win the game down 1, he made a steal and wanted going in for the layup, which wound up being the game-winning layup. This after Stith scored, I think, 49 in that game. It was just masterful. As masterful as he seemed in this game, frankly.
Shot clock winding down. Crawford will have to shoot. No good, but a rebound for McCulley, who gets it in. Shot there doesn't fall. And as we go into the under 10 media timeout, 59-57, a tight game back and forth between 1961 and 1970, with the underdogs with a slim advantage over the Final Four squad.
And we hear a little John Lennon from 1970 come together. 10 more minutes in the Riley Center to find out who will face Jalen Adams, Matt Mobley, Courtney Stockard, and that 2018 team. Let's check
out our State Farm assist of the game. It's Tom Stith passing it in.
It's a big and 1 bucket there inside by McCulley.
McCulley's showing his own here. You know, we talked about how his featured year was the next year, but he's really holding his own. Has to, because as great as Lanier has played today, I think he's really actually kept him from really going off.
$59, $57, $9:52 left in this one. Crawford up, and it goes. 4 points once again, the largest lead for 1961 as Fred Crawford has 20 points tonight. Oh, the pass into Lanier. It goes in. Tom Stith In down low, no good. Rebound for McCulley, who he'll put the putback in.
Lanier swatted stiff there underneath, but McCulley, a nice job being aware and getting that offensive rebound off the block and putting it in. Big bucket there. They're up 4 now.
Give Lanier credit, still playing defense, even though he doesn't want to get that 4th foul.
Oh, the pass does get into Lanier, who lays it in. 39 points for Lanier, trying to top his 49-point performance in the last game.
They just can't stop Stith when they need to. They run the shot clock down, they get it to either Stith or Crawford, and they're both able to get a shot off.
10 of 17 shooting, 18 points
Nice
for
pass.
Tom Stith so far. The pass in, and it goes. (65-63), less than 8 to go here in the Riley Center. Shot doesn't fall. Lanier with the rebound. A little bit of a double team there on Lanier.
Shot clock and a problem.
Tight defense as they'll have to shoot the desperation shot off the front of the rim. No good. Whitey Martin with a pump fake will kick it out. Martin with it back. Crawford up and no good. Rebound though for, nope, 70 gets it.
Another bad possession by the 70 team right there.
Tough defense. That ball is going to go out of bounds. It will stay with 1970, although they'll only have 2.5 seconds left in the shot clock. Paul Hoffman will check back in for 70. So, Mike, who would be somebody to take over on offense for 70? Because they're having some trouble getting some open shots.
Yeah, you know what I'd like?
Lanier.
Wow, it's a great play there by 61 right there. What I'd like to see them do is try and figure out a way to get Billy Calvo open for a couple of open jumpers, because although he's having a hard day, a tough day today, and we're mostly seeing him miss on drives to the basket. I mean, he was just dead-eye clutch from 16 to 18 feet. And, you know, if you start making those shots, then all of a sudden things are going to get a little bit easier underneath for the big guys.
There's Gary who lays it in.
That's also not a bad option, because Bubba Gary was a quiet assassin who would figure out a way to get behind you, beneath you, over you. I mean, he's also a weapon that you don't want to overlook here.
Cutting pass into Fred Crawford, but he can't get it to fall. Nearly stripped, but Calbaugh will corral it. Shot clock winding down once again.
It's another bad possession there.
Gary with a deep shot, but a rebound for Bob Lanier, who puts it in. 41 points now for the Dauber.
We circle that one, guys. 61's going to really kind of remember that if this game doesn't end the way they want it to.
Now tied at 67. Whitey Martin, no good, but a foul is going to be called on McCulley on the rebound.
It's been a while since the 70 team was ahead, isn't it? I don't think they've ever led the second half, which is amazing.
61 has held a couple 4-point leads, but nothing more than that.
Here we go.
As they get it into Lanier, who gets it off the glass and in, and there's their lead. It is nice to 67. 4:21 left in this one. Shot falls for Tom Stith. 24 points on the night.
Well, you can't ask for better than
Timeout is going to be called.
Can't ask better than this. And it's funny, you asked before about the various home court advantages, and probably the loudest I ever heard the Riley Center was for the NIT game, believe it or not, in 1995, which was the first postseason game they played there in 18 years. And I can just remember being there, and I was obviously long gone by that point. But I went there, and just it was amazing just how appreciative the fans were. I think of watching an NIT game, and appreciative of that season, and appreciative of that team. And Southern Miss had no shot that night. You can only imagine, what it must have been like to have tried to play there when Lanier was playing there, when the great NIT team was playing there. And really, it's amazing to think about, compressing all that noise into a building half its size, which is what they were doing with the Armory.
Mm-hmm.
When they won those 99 games in a row, and the great history they had at that building.
Checking out
player of the game here, Tom Stith.
Again, a little too early to be picking a player of the game. Still a lot of time left, but Stith has been spectacular. Him or Lanier. Fred Crawford has also been phenomenal today.
Bob Lanier cutting into the lane will put it in. 71 to nice with 4 minutes left.
The right hand, too.
Beautiful pass by Kelba inside of the cutting Lanier. Set him up perfectly.
Stiff jumper, no good. Rebound for McCulley, who puts it in.
There's that man again, McCulley, who's playing the game of his life right now.
McCulley getting the offensive rebound against Lanier, getting good position with the putback to tie it up.
Bob Lanier, 47 points tonight after 49 in the last game. He is trying to will 70 into the final.
Every possession means so much, and everybody on both teams is stepping up. It's remarkable. Another great play there.
Oh, good give and go. Whitey Martin puts it in.
Great pass by Stith inside of the cutting Martin.
Tied at 73 with 2:45 left to go. Winner will play the 2018 team as a stop there on defense for 1961. Shot does not fall there. Lanier up and under, and it goes. He equals last game's total of 49 points with that shot.
You're talking about the statement the guys in the 61 team are making, but how about the statement that Bob Lanier is making today?
Yeah.
Also, guys.
Fred Crawford comes back with his own. He's got 22 as we are now tied at 75 with less than 2 to play. Lanier gets around the defender and puts it in. 51 now for the Dauber.
Ties a career high, guys. He had 51 against Seton Hall his junior year.
Yeah.
Stith leading jumper, no good. Rebound for 70, getting out. Shot doesn't fall. Tom Stith, little jumper from the elbow goes, and it's tied at 77. 26 points for Stith tonight. Into Lanier. Lanier gets it to fall. 53 points for the Big Cat.
Big man is unstoppable, boys.
Looked like he got shoved into the baseline there, too. No call.
That sure looked like an and one to me.
Letting them play like they did in the Armory. No good there. 70 with the ball. up to Cowboy, and he lays it in a timeout for 61.
And are those his first points of the game? Because if they are, that's quintessential Billy Cowboy. Because keeping it in reserve until you absolutely need him. And talk about one of the great careers in Bonaventure history. Not just a great player whose number by right should already be in the rafters, but just a faithful servant for many years to Jim Sadlin. Really good coach in his own right at Mercyhurst College, and just one of the great ambassadors. I mean, generations of people who have covered the Bonaventure basketball team, me and the Rich siblings and JP. I mean, anytime you got a question at all about any of the last 55 or so years of basketball Bona history, give Billy Cowboy a call, and an hour later you'll be a lot smarter for the whole subject you're trying to write about. Just one of the really great Bonaventure people I've ever met.
So if you're 61, who's going to be the player down the stretch that you want to go through on offense, Mike?
I think you got to go through Stiff. I mean, he's still your bread and butter. He's still the best player in the country. He's your Lanier, and he's out, and they haven't been able to stop him. They haven't shown an inclination to stop him. He's getting a lot of good looks, and I think you have to try and figure that out. I think Whitey Martin's got to try and penetrate. And hey, if they let him go. But I think that they've got to be looking for 42 here for sure.
81-77, 43 seconds left. Whitey Martin with the shot, no good. Rebound for Stiff and the putback, no good, but a foul on Bob Lanier. That's his fourth.
70 all of a sudden doesn't want any part of overtime because he got some bad foul trouble between Lanier and Matt Gant.
Both with 4 fouls.
Coach Weesey is not happy with that call.
So you have to hit both of these and then get a stop on the other end, which has been difficult to do of late with Lanier, and then another bucket for 61 would tie it.
First shot goes in. Once again, we are playing with 1970 rules, so there is no three-pointer in this one.
Couple of clutch shots there, huh?
Tom Stiff down the stretch, making 2 big free throws in a loud Riley center. Lanier, tightly guarded, is stripped, and it is gonna. Is that gonna stay here? No. I believe it's going to 61.
Lanier tried to go up with that. McCauley with a nice strip, and as Lanier was gathering that ball that he just had stripped, he stepped out of bounds. 28 seconds. Shot clock isn't off. Shot clocks are at 24. So 70 could get the ball back if 61 scores here to tie it. They do not have the last shot.
Guys, it's hard to say that a guy who's allowed his man to get 51 points is having a great game. And McCauley's having a great game. I mean, he's held his own on the other end, and I mean, there's a big play for him also.
So Tom Stiff, how would Tom Stiff get open in this situation here, Mike?
Yeah, I think you got to put him on one post and Freddie Crawford in the other, and give Whitey Martin's the engine on this team right here. So you got to trust him. In the last possession he kind of took it himself, which probably was the wrong choice. Although Stiff wound up getting the offensive rebound, but I think that same thing. You got to give the ball to Whitey, hope he can draw the defense, and whichever one of his men kind of slough in on him, either 42 or 54 has got to get that ball, and it's going to be a probably easy shot.
Here we are, 81-79. 1970 out in front with 20 seconds left. And the shot will fall, and a timeout for 1970.
Whitey Martin, just a quintessential Whitey Martin play. Guys, it's funny. I was actually friends with his daughter, Rachel. She was also class of '89, like I was. And I can remember one time at a party we were talking, and I was like reciting Whitey Martin's career to her, because I was a Bonnie's nerd even when I was 21. And she was like, I think you know more about it than I do. I'm like, I'm sure I probably do, actually. But he was really, before they ever called guys like that glue players, he was really a glue player. And he was a fantastic player from Buffalo, a great recruit for them in that time. And he immediately understood when he showed up on campus. He saw what Tom Stiff could do, saw what Tom Stiff could be, and realized that he was going to best serve the team as a supporting player, and that's what he did for 4 years. Had a great career in his own right. His number is in the rafters as it should be, but he's really one of the great glue players that Bonner's ever had. Probably, in his time, a better version of Jim Barron. We hear the same thing about Jim Barron when he was a player. Whitey Martin was probably the original Jim Barron.
So 1970 is going to need to drop one final play. I'm guessing you want to go to the big cat, right?
My money's on 31 here, no matter what.
14 seconds left, tied at 81. We've had no overtime games in the Bona Cup. Lanier over to Gant. Clock winding down. Oh! Shot will not fall. And we are going to be going into our first overtime game of the Bona Cup as 61 and 70 duel it out in the Riley Center.
You saw on one end, 70 double team Stith. He passed out of it to a cutting Martin. A great look out of a double team. And then on the other end, 61 double teams Lanier. He passes out of it but ends up getting it back. Great defensive possession there by 61 to double the big man, not let him get too close to the basket. Forces up a mid-range shot that almost went. Would have been a buzzer beater for 70, but we got 4 more minutes of overtime now.
That's the 61 team's DNA right there, guys. Great defense leading to great offense.
81 apiece here as we start overtime, and the winner will take on 2018 in the Bona Cup final as Lanier puts it in. The Dauber now with 55 tonight. Whitey Martin with a tough jumper falls.
You wanted the call there too, boys.
And once again, we're tied at 83. Both teams going back and forth, and especially in the second half. 1970 jumped out to an early 12-0 lead, but it was 61 was able to erase that pretty quickly. Lanier with a rebound. And it goes in. 57 for Bob Lanier tonight. 48 in the paint.
You can make up for a lot of sins when you got a guy like Lanier underneath, huh? Because it's probably the 10th time this half where the Bonnies have just listlessly let the clock run down.
Yeah, sometimes those bad shots lead to odd rebounds. Lanier's been able to clean up the offensive glass a few times. That was a big one. And then a quick answer for Stith to tie it up again.
That goes into Lanier once again for the make. 59 tonight for him.
70s offense at its finest right there. Just great movement, great ball, and ends up in Lanier's hands. That's kind of the ideal blueprint.
Shot clock winding down. Stith with a jumper for the free throw line. No good. There's Matt Gant with a big shot there to put 70 up by 4.
Boy, that's a huge shot right there. That gives him a little bit of breathing room, and Gant's been a little bit invisible for the last couple of minutes, but that's a huge play.
Stith into the lane. Off the rim. No good on the layup. 70 getting out in transition. Matt Gant eventually gets it in. 2 big baskets for him as 70 stretches the lead out to 6, the largest in quite a while for them. You have to wonder if the 61 guys are starting to run out of gas now. But there's a shot made for 1961. Still a 4-point deficit for the Sweet 16 team. As they get it into Lanier. Lanier puts it in, and the foul. 61 points for the Dauber tonight.
I think the way they play is starting to see the surtax for that, guys. That's the way 61 teams plays, up and down the floor, high acting the whole time. I think these last 4 minutes have kind of shown that it's kind of catching up to them now.
Yeah, what a pass inside too by Calba again. Lanier can cap off the N1. You hear the Riley Center fans cheering, chanting MVP at the Dauber.
You can make this the largest lead for 1970 since the first half at 7 with this layup or free throw. And it falls 94-87. 1 minute left in overtime. Winner will take on 2018 here in the Riley Center for the Bona Cup final. Stith no good in the jumper. Gets a rebound off the glass. No good. Shot falls there, and a timeout for 1961. Without a three-point line, it appears that it's too little too late now for 61, as 1970, the number 1 overall seed, looks to be taking their rightful place in the Bona Cup final.
Guys, it looks like the people who look at the score in the next day's newspaper are going to think it was a little less competitive than it was. We know better, because 61 at 70 down and almost out and late in the fourth quarter. And, you know, all credit to Bob Lanier, who just was sensational all game long, start to finish. And, you know, in overtime, look at Matt Gant, who kind of been quieted by foul trouble a little bit, makes 2 huge plays, kind of gives that team a little breathing room. And I think once they had that breathing room, I think they started to play at a little different level in the 61 team.
Yeah, it looked like 61 may have started to press a little bit, maybe hit the panic button. Stith was taking some contested jumpers, and on that last possession, you saw 70's presence inside. 61 just couldn't capitalize on some of those offensive putbacks.
96-87. It appears that the subs have now come in for both squads. Lanier is actually on the bench. He gets a final few seconds of rest after 62 points tonight.
Barry Herbert gets on the board.
In, making his first appearance of the 2020 Bona Cup. Matt Gant along the baseline. No good, but he gets fouled by Petrovic. So it looks like 1961 is waving the white flag here, of course, without a three-point line. It's really hard to come back from down 9, which they could be if both these free throws fall.
Looks like we will have, after all the Bona Cup, all the games we've had, we'll have number 1, 1970 versus number 2, 2018. No three-point line. How do you think that'll go, Vac?
Well, that'll be a fun one to watch. No three-point line obviously is a huge disadvantage for the 2018 team, who made its living on that with Adams and Mobley. And boy, that's really going to be a bit of an advantage for the 70 team. And obviously, I mean, they got to figure out something to do with 31. So I'd be very surprised if 1970 doesn't walk away with the cup. But it'll be a fun game to watch, no doubt about that. And
this was definitely a fun game to watch. Our first overtime game. It ends with 1970. Bob Lanier in 62 points, knocking off 61 with Tom Stith and Fred Crawford leading the way. Not enough, though, down the stretch in overtime, as the 1970 Final Four team wins in the Bona Cup Final Four. We have some confetti falling in the Riley Center. Don't think I've ever seen that before.
You missed it back in the day. We used to throw toilet paper after the first basket. So I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes there was confetti involved in that mix also.
Some people will rip up newspapers sometimes, like maybe the BV or something.
That's a terrible way to treat the
Throw it
BV.
out in the crowd.
Yeah.
Look at him there. Bob Lanier, 62 points after having 49 points in the quarterfinal. What is he going to have in store for the final if he's putting up 49 and then 62? We'll have to see on Thursday, as they'll take on 2018.
And the Butler Regional Trophy being hoisted by the Dauber.
There you go.
That's right. They won the Butler Regional with this win, even though we didn't play in Butler. They played in Butler in the quarterfinal. They received 62 and 28 points for Lanier. 20 points out of Matt Gant. Bubba Gary with 10 as well.
Not an unexpected outcome. I think it was unexpected that it took overtime, because I think the 70 team is a little bit better than the 61 team, guys. But man, that was fun to watch, and it was fun to watch Tom Stith and Bob Lanier go mano a mano, kind of AKA Bird and Dominique at a pretty famous game back in the 80s. Just there was that one stretch up and down the floor. It was Lanier on one side and Gant the other. That was a lot of fun, especially for Bonaventure folks like us.
Yeah, Stith 30 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Crawford added 22 points. But they were not quite enough for 1970 as we hear Wade in the Water. We'll be hearing that again on Thursday. Take a quick look at the shot chart. I'm sure there will be a lot of red circles in the paint when we get to Lanier's.
Huh.
See, Ori Jarrell with a couple good makes there.
38 and 7 for Stith, really close to a triple double. That tells you a little bit about what player he was.
Look at Bob Lanier. All those buckets in the paint.
62 and 28. I think 2018 has their work cut out for them. Down low.
Get him in early foul trouble. That's the only shot you have, I think.
Yeah.
He did have 4 fouls, and he survived overtime.
You can see there why it's going to be a big advantage for the 70 team. You can see all those didn't make one shot from what would generally be considered a three-point line, and that's where the 2018 team really kind of had its dinner.
Yeah.
We look at the rebounds here. Huge rebounding advantage for 1970, of course, with Lanier picking up plenty of rebounds.
20 offensive rebounds and 22 second chance points. Most of those were Lanier cleaning up the offensive glass and getting putbacks.
And so, Vac, if we talk a little bit about the Bona Cup final, you mentioned it. How does 2018 take down 1970 if they can?
Well, obviously it starts, even though there's no three-point line, I mean, it starts with the backcourt because it was always about the backcourt. And one of the things, look, I mean, one of the great things we all loved about that team was how fearless Courtney Stockard was. Let's hope he shows up at full strength and fully healthy, because there was nobody in America that intimidated him. So he'll actually relish the idea of trying to bring a little pain down on the big man. And I think that's really what you have to hope for. I mean, look, that 18 team wasn't always pretty. I mean, you remember the game they won against Syracuse? They won that. The ultimate war of attrition. I think that's kind of the game you got to shoot for. I think Syracuse is probably a little bit better team than them, but they were able to win a game on the road because they had the character and the will to be able to get it done, even though I don't think they scored a field goal in the overtime, or there was some kind of crazy thing like that. And look, that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take to beat 70, because they have the best player on the floor. All due respect to Jalen, but look, as we saw in this game, if you're willing to play together, you're willing to play 40 minutes hard. I mean, I think the 2018 team is better. Is definitely certainly deserves to be up there with the 61 team. So if the 61 team can take this team to overtime, if the 18 team shows up with its A game, it's going to be a fun one to watch.
That's right. Once again, our final score, 98-89 in overtime. The 1970 team takes down 1961 in the Bona Cup Final Four. We will have Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern here on YouTube, 1970 versus 2018 in the 2020 Bona Cup Final. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Bona Commenter, at SB Unfurled, and subscribe on YouTube to SB Unfurled to get notifications about the last game. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, Vac. That was great to have you.
That was a blast. Thanks, guys. That was a lot of fun. It really was. I appreciate you thinking of me.